I will be approaching this from a epistemological perspective. I want to understand the structure of your belief system and why you believe what you believe, and if this affects any other belief systems you have, such as spiritual, political, cultural, etc. I am not going to try to convince you the world is a sphere. I don't really think there is any point to that. However, I will try to challenge you on your belief system, and I hope you challenge me on my own. The intention is to understand and respect and see if there is a utility in your epistemological framework.
Look, I'm new to all this sort of stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
I don't have any how would you say, I don't have any suspicion. Like, I'm comfortable with the whole scientific sort of notion of the Earth sort of being a globe, right? So I believe that there is a space station up there, but I understand that it could just as easily be sort of done, on a soundstage in Hollywood or whatever, because the technology to sort of recreate uh, um, zero gravity, I mean, they do that in movies, right? It's really not a big deal, but I don't think that in and of itself is proof that the Earth is flat or
No, it's definitely not.
globe.
It's just proof that space is fake. But we'll get
Yeah.
we'll
But
get there.
space is okay. Okay, that's fair. So space is fake. So when you look up at the sky, what do you think that you're seeing?
Tell me what this looks like. Ready?
Hey, Angel, how are
Hold
you?
on. Hold on.
Good, how are you?
Very
I'm,
good, very
I'm
good.
on the ISS. Angel, what does this look like? Have you does that
Oh
look
shit.
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah,
familiar
Yeah.
scene?
That's a space station floating up
Yeah.
on the Earth. Yeah.
So
You even came into frame randomly.
yeah. So this is
Yeah.
this has happened on the space station. Hold on, let me add myself back in. Where they're just randomly popping in. Like there's no one there, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
there's somebody there.
Yeah.
That's impossible to recreate, isn't it? Unless it's real.
I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah. What's the issue with that? I mean, do you not know how to edit?
No, I'm just saying I just did, but can you explain this if they weren't using this type of technology?
No.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they're not on the space station, is what I'm saying. This is all fake. It's all fake.
Can I say
Look,
something, Andrew?
look, I'm new to all this sort of stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
I don't have any how would you say, I don't have any suspicion. Like, I'm comfortable with the whole scientific sort of notion of the Earth sort of being a globe, right? So I believe that there is a space station up there, but I understand that it could just as easily be sort of done, on a soundstage in Hollywood or whatever, because the technology to sort of recreate uh, um, zero gravity, I mean, they do that in movies, right? It's really not a big deal, but I don't think that in and of itself is proof that the Earth is flat or
No, it's definitely not.
globe.
It's just proof that space is fake. But
Yeah.
we'll get
But
there.
space is okay. Okay, that's fair. So space is fake. So when you look up at the sky, what do you think that you're seeing?
Yeah,
Great
we're
question.
seeing lights above our heads that are very cyclical and geocentric to the Earth, right?
Mhm.
But the problem is, right, with all these videos and photos they give us from space, would you agree that if I show you a video of me or a live feed from me in Narnia, it doesn't verify Narnia?
No. It doesn't verify anything, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
Yep.
space violates natural law.
All right, Andrew. I gave
Go
you
ahead.
permission to record, so hit record. Do you know where the record button is?
No, you got to help me
You're on a
out.
computer. Move your mouse
Record.
down.
Yeah, got you. Record to
Hit-
this computer. Okay,
yeah, there you go.
fantastic. So
Yeah.
on my end, this is recorded. Yeah, because this is fascinating. By the way, Angel, real quick, because I'm nervous and
Don't be
I
nervous.
tend to
We're having a
I
conversation
sort of,
here about refraction.
scattered thoughts. Yeah. No, 100%. But what's that necklace? What's the emblem on that necklace?
No, it's just random from Italy again, but
Oh,
yeah,
lovely.
just a random
Whereabouts are you from in
sign.
Italy?
Well, my mum's from the south, Puglia, and my dad was from the north of the border, Italy and Croatia.
Oh, lovely. So north. West. Yeah.
Kind of like near what's it called? Trieste. I don't know if you know what that is, but yeah,
Have you
near that
been to
kind of
Italy?
region. Yeah, when
Have you
I
been?
was yeah, I had my 13th birthday there as a while ago, but yes, I have been.
Oh, lovely. Ooh, your 13th birthday in Italy. Look at you, you
Yeah.
fancy fucker.
Yeah,
That's really, really lovely.
that was just
Yeah.
2 years ago too.
David,
Yeah.
have you traveled? Yeah. I was going to say 3 years
I've
ago.
traveled. I've been to
But
Australia.
have you really?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
real.
yeah.
I can guarantee you it's real. I was there.
So yeah, because my father-in-law said that he read an article and he thinks this is all sort of fun and silly or whatever. He obviously doesn't take it seriously, and he said that there's a fraction within the flat Earth movement where some flat earthers don't believe that Australia is real,
Yeah,
and I
so
kind of
so
laugh at that,
actually that's not
right?
true. That's what the mainstream
Okay,
says. They say that flat Earth. They it's called a
I
straw
love that.
man.
Yeah,
They make up
yeah.
stuff
Strawman.
about us. Yeah, they just make up stuff
Look,
about us, and people are like, oh, wow, you guys think the Earth is rising at 9.8 meters per second? No, we don't. We don't.
yeah,
Welcome
yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
Today we're speaking with Andrew Talk. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Andrew Toke,
Toke. Okay, Andrew
Yeah,
Toke.
yeah, yeah,
And now we
yeah,
have
yeah.
Angels of
Just
Light.
pretend that it's Toke.
Yep. Both these guys are in Australia. It does exist, as I said a moment ago. And Andrew is on the globe side for sure. He wants to help educate us, and he is willing to be educated himself. So we're having a conversation to see where both sides are coming from, and we'll see if any
Yeah.
opinions change today.
Yeah, look, and I said this in the email. I'm not going to try to change other people's minds because that's not what I do. I'm just fascinated with how other people think. But I am coming from a particular expertise. Like I've got a philosophy degree, if that counts for anything. And I love the notion of how people's sort of ideas sort of stem. It's called the study of epistemology, right? So I just want to understand why you guys believe what you believe, right? I'm actually genuinely fascinated. Yeah.
What's your
And
degree?
I can't believe that you've got a WOG on board. That's crazy.
What's
Oh,
your
there's a lot of us.
degree? Is
No,
in
I know. Actually, I know
philosophy, you
that
said.
there's a lot of my family members that are flat earthers. It's yeah,
Well,
it's
there's going to
nuts.
be another one in your family very soon. So,
Yeah.
degree in,
Okay.
in philosophy, you
Good.
said? Because that
Yeah.
really will help you with the globe model because you do need to philosophize a lot to justify the globe. Um, there's
And
so
flat
many places.
earthers.
Well, there's so many places to start, and Angel, jump in anytime. But I kind of like to start. Is what is the number one thing that makes you think the Earth is a globe? And we could tackle these one by one. Maybe we start like that. How's that sound?
Sure, sure. But yeah, okay,
And feel free
100%.
to, if you want to ask us some questions first, feel free. As
Yeah.
you said
Yeah.
before we
No, no,
started
no.
recording,
No,
you're
no.
very
It's really
new to this
interesting.
topic, so we're
Yeah,
ready.
no, 100% I am. And I kind of wanted to come into this sort of fresh because I find a question like that quite confronting, right? Because you learn this in philosophy, like the most basic ideas, if you really think about it, you're not really very sure about it, right? So I believe that the Earth is a globe because, well, firstly, I'm a globetrotter, right? I love to travel, right? I've been up, on high up in the air, on long haul sort of flights, right?
Did you go to the north?
So
Have you been to the north? Where have you been?
yeah, I've been in the north. I mean, Christ, like last year I was in the Arctic Circle in Levi in
So,
Finland.
so you went from
Oh, okay, yeah,
here.
sweet as.
So
Okay, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
you
look
went
at
from down
you.
here,
Yeah, you
and
got
you
props.
flew up over the globe, and then landed up here somewhere. Correct?
No,
While the globe, you didn't do that.
no. It went from so the trajectory or whatever the direction that it took is from Sydney all the way up north,
Okay,
across
America.
uh, Southeast Asia, and then up to Europe, right, and
All
then
right.
to
So
Finland.
so so so
Oh
again,
yeah,
excuse
so
the
from
transparent parts. It's just my green screen.
no,
You
it's okay.
flew
Oh, yeah.
up from Australia and through
Yep.
Asia, and so the
Pretty
plane
much. Yeah,
flew
yeah,
up and
yeah.
around. Did you?
That's the general direct. Yeah. That's pretty much it. And ended up basically like at the Arctic Circle, the Lapland, basically, sort of like, the top of the earth. Yeah, it was really, really
I've got a
lovely up
question.
there.
I've got
Yeah,
a
go ahead.
question. So
I'm not
you
lying,
felt
Angel.
All right.
no,
And
I get it.
Andrew, just last thing, because there's three of us here, when one person's talking, let's try not to interrupt, let them finish the point, and then we'll go have lots of back and forth. And it's easy. I step on people all the time. So make sure when I do that to you, you scold me, please.
Yeah, so airplanes, as they travel over the surface of the Earth, they do not need to adjust for curvature or Earth rotation ever. We have the pitch data to support this. So I've been in a plane myself too, traveling long distances, and you feel the plane taking off, you feel the plane landing, you feel the plane turning. You do not ever feel the plane adjusting for curvature because it doesn't do that. It actually flies with a positive attitude and angle of attack in relation to the horizon. Now, if the Earth is curving down and away from you, and I've debated many pilots, they always prove it's flat because they have to assume the Earth is flat and stationary when they fly, otherwise they crash. So in order for a plane to maintain lift, they have to have a nose up to the horizon. Now, in the dash of the pilot's windshield, I guess you could call it, is the horizon. It's sitting there. Now, the thing that never happens is the horizon never dips down and away from the plane, and they have a positive angle of attack in relation to it. So what does that tell you? In order for them to maintain lift and do this straight line, straight and level flight, they have a positive angle of attack. The horizon never dips down and away.
The other thing is, I was on a flight to Mexico, and the pilot announced that they're going to start descending. They're about 125 miles out from the airport. And if you ask a pilot, they'll tell you that they have to calculate how many feet per mile they need to drop to hit the runway. Makes sense, right? So 125 miles out, he figures out, okay, this is his angle of descent. But this is a flat Earth calculation. At 125 miles, the plane would be 2 miles too high if it didn't calculate for curvature. But no one ever calculates for curvature. So he's figuring his angle of descent. The Earth is sloping and curving away, allegedly, but they never calculate for it. They only use a flat Earth calculation.
Top of descent, yeah. It assumes a flat baseline.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question, Andrew. During the flight, when it got up to altitude and they leveled off, they came around and served you drinks or whatever, and you could drink your cup, no problem. And so you don't feel the Earth doing, you don't feel the plane doing anything. In straight level flight, it's literally flying a straight line to a parallel Earth, and it's just following the trajectory of the Earth, which is parallel to the plane.
Okay. I have an answer to all this. I mean, I think I might have an answer to this because that in and of itself isn't very compelling to me. And part of the reason why is because, well, firstly, none of us are pilots, right? So when you say it doesn't account for the curvature or for the angle, like, what do you mean? Like, what would it actually look like, and how do you know? Like, were you the one flying, right?
Yeah.
Did you go into
if I
the
could,
cockpit and actually check? Because like I'd have to defer to like, expertise on this, but also the whole notion of you'd have to calculate for the curvature, right, when you land. I mean, and again, I actually saw this in Simon Dan, and I love his content just because I find it entertaining. Like I find the sort of gentle joshing nature of it fun. But in that sort of calculation, you're not taking into account like how big the Earth is, right?
Andrew,
And it's not actually curved. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I got to interrupt. Sorry. When you say you enjoy Simon Dan's information, every single thing he says is just literally untrue, and he's just a comedian, and he will never talk to any of us live like you are. Okay, he'll never do that because every single point he's ever made has been clearly debunked. Angel, you're able to share right now. But before you do, let me just show you this.
No, but hold on. Wait, I actually want to comment to that because I agree with you totally. I actually reached out to him just because, I figured if I'm going to reach out to you, I'll try to reach out to him. Ghosted me completely. He didn't react. He didn't anything. Like I'd comment on his Instagrams and I'd get like 50 people to comment on my comments, but he wouldn't say anything.
Right.
And I messaged him, I DM'd him, I emailed him, absolutely nothing. I don't look at him as like, a scientifically
I know
verified.
you said he's
just
entertaining.
fun.
He's not entertaining.
It's fun. Yeah. And he's joking. That's all that it is, right? I think it's slightly more entertaining than him, right?
It's more than that.
Yeah. No, 100%. But I suppose like I'm in agreement with him when he said the fact that like the Earth is so big that when it lands, it doesn't have to take into consideration the curvature of the Earth, right? Because the area for which like it's landing is this
Yeah,
big.
you're just
Flat,
speaking.
like
You're saying
relatively speaking, I
we
suppose,
agree.
right?
We agree that the
Yeah.
Earth is so big it appears to be flat. However, at
Yeah.
125 miles away, just 125 miles, there's 2 miles of curvature drop if the Earth is a globe. You need to calculate that in your rate of descent because if you're 2 miles too high when you get to the airport, that's a problem. So, and to say
Yeah.
that the Earth is too big is what they want you to believe that, but they want you to believe that boats go over the horizon at just 3 miles away when we can see that they don't. Right. Just before we change topics, and Angel, you wanna share something. This is a pilot did a time lapse video from I think it was Berlin to Brazil, about 4,000 miles. Now they're diving over the ball, so these stars in the distance should be rising up. This is a Google Earth, the same flight on Google Earth, and you would see the stars going up because the plane is looking at stars and it's diving over. So now these stars are above the plane versus
Yeah.
front of the plane. This is what Google Earth says the flight should look like, but this is what the flight actually looks like. So the plane is going quarter of the way around the globe, but the stars are just staying where they are.
Okay. I
You want to know what Cy
suppose
Van Dan says about that?
probably something very mean-spirited that hurts your feelings.
Well, he says that because we're going in the same direction as the spin and it's negating. Well, that's not true. We weren't going in the same direction, but even if we were, we're going
Yeah. I was going to say about the spin.
we're going half the speed that the stars should be going. So they still should be going up. And then we did a return flight. And if what he's saying is true, the stars should be going overhead twice as fast, like going the opposite way on a highway, looking at the cars on the other side, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It's the same thing.
No.
This never happens. Never happens. Go ahead, Angel. You want to share something?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You can share.
What Dave is trying to show you with the stars there is that we don't move. The stars are the ones moving, and we are stationary. So that's why the plane's going straight, but the stars are going to the right, sideways, basically, essentially, according to this flight.
Yep.
Yeah.
If the flight was actually going over a curve, and the stars were still, then you'd see the stars come over the plane, but they don't do that. But yeah, I did want to show you something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see if I can share. I've got it's very, very early stages, but it's an actual flight simulator. Now, I've got two models on here, one flat, one globe, and I'm going to show you. A buddy of mine did. It's very early stages, but it's enough to actually show you how it works now. So it gets up to altitude. I'm going to level it off. It's flying straight now. This is how pilots fly in reality. Now, what you're going to notice is that, yes, this is actually a globe. And they admit they never need to nose down. They don't need to do it. But the thing is, if you're flying a straight line over a globe, like I said earlier, the horizon's going to dip down and away from the plane. So already you can see in the top right here, it's gaining altitude. And if I speed it up and, get it to speed, look how much feet it's increasing in altitude. Now they don't need to nose down. If they flew, I've debated many pilots, if they flew from the North Pole to the equator, to the North Pole to the South Pole, if that's possible, if they ever did it, they would not need to nose down. But look how high I'm getting. Look how high I am. I have to nose down. In order to keep up with that curve, I'm going to be in space soon. I'm at 60,000 feet. It's just going to keep increasing. I have to nose down now. See, so I'm nosing down now to keep up with the curve.
Yep. And you're saying that pilots don't nose down.
Now you did say a moment ago we're not pilots, and no, we're not. I don't think Angel's a pilot, but I have, and
great flight simulator.
Yeah. So there's many pilots from Qantas, from Delta, from American, from KLM that I literally talk to regularly, and they all know the Earth is flat. They know that they don't. Yes.
That's crazy to me because I was going to retort and say like I'd be convinced of a flat Earth if you can give me proof that a professional pilot that is currently flying is a flat earther.
So,
so
if
I'd be convinced,
all
right?
right,
That's
well,
nuts. It
welcome to
really,
flat.
really is.
Welcome to flat
Well,
Earth.
welcome to Flat Earth.
Yeah.
Welcome to
Oh,
Flat Earth.
So
sweet. What do I get?
on my you get a freedom from the matrix, and that is more than you could ask for.
Ugh.
So our pilots and scientists in on it on my app. If you go to the frequently asked questions page, let me just change this a second. Portrait, and we scroll down, and here's a video right here. 3 hours, 28 pilots confirming that the Earth is flat. And on top of that, better than that, if we go back to flip over here, whoops. If we go to the Flat Earth video section on the app, this movie right here, Flatten the Curve. These are all military pilots and military captains and weapons operators, all telling how their equipment will only work on a flat Earth, and proving that that the horizon that we see is optical, and it would be impossible on a globe.
So let me show you something else. I'm going to show you the pitch data from an aircraft that was flying. The pitch data confirms, by the way, that they just fly a straight line. And I can also go back to the simulation after and put it on a flat Earth and just show you and confirm the pitch data. So I'm just going to share my screen real quick. And this here is a snippet of the pitch data. This is when it was flying in straight level flight. You can see the orange line here is perfectly straight line. This line underneath it, that line there, that's horizontal. So that's 0 degrees. So this plane is nosing up about 2 to 3 degrees here constantly.
Yeah.
Now the altitude here is...
What does this data, I'm sorry for interrupting, but what is this data referencing? Is that your flight simulator or is this something separate?
No, this is an actual flight that happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah. So positive pitch for 2 hours. You can see the times here was 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same altitude the whole time. Now, I showed you in my flight simulator on a globe that the Earth's curving down and away from the plane. And I absolutely had to nose down to keep up with it. But here, 1,000-mile distance over 2 hours,
yep,
the plane did not nose down. It stayed exactly the same above horizontal. Now, according to this pitch data, the plane would be 125 miles above the globe because it traveled a straight line. As the Earth was curving down and away, it would have gained that much altitude, 125 miles in just 2 hours.
I have my critical thinking hat on. I have a retort to that as well. That data that you showed me isn't consistent with the flight simulator path, right? I don't even know the path for that. Previous sort of data. So I can't confirm or deny. But right now, the biggest fact is still that pilots believe in flat Earth. So I'd love for you to send me the link to that at some point, David, because
I will absolutely send you there's plenty. We had a KLM pilot that came on our show called Globebusters. This was a bunch of years ago, and was explaining exactly how the Earth is flat, how planes cannot fly on a globe. And
is he a retired pilot?
A pilot, yes, a senior pilot at KLM.
But like, yeah, wow, okay, but a current pilot at KLM, because I've flown KLM.
Well, not
like,
current,
I like
not current, because right after that show, she got grounded and wasn't allowed to fly anymore.
No,
right. This is why pilots don't talk about it. So, and Qantas, and I would say not all pilots.
But that's
hold on. Let me make my point.
Go ahead.
Let me make my point.
Go ahead.
My point is, we'll get into it in a moment. Southern flights are more difficult to explain on a globe than northern flights. Northern flights are very similar, right? But and so the Qantas pilots, they all know, right? We've talked to many Qantas pilots, and they say they talk about it openly in their lounge, but not publicly, because if they do, they lose their cushy jobs.
Yeah, because the way that you reacted to it, I get a sense that you feel really strongly about it. Like it really upsets you.
No, it doesn't upset me. I'm just telling you this is what's going on. I'm not upset at all.
No. But okay, so I should say it upsets me. That's ridiculous, right? That someone spoke to you publicly and then was grounded or fired, right?
Yeah, very upsetting.
Was unable to fly anymore because it doesn't matter like what you think. It doesn't matter that this particular person had a conversation with you. They're still a senior pilot and they could still fly from A to B and they presumably had a good record or whatever. I don't know the specifics, but that's absolutely ridiculous.
Andrew,
Like
I'm not
that's strike one for the Globers, for goodness sakes, right? Because
right.
for
Go
me,
on.
basically, like I just believe in like freedom of speech and freedom of expression, right? You know what I mean? Like that's ridiculous. So
You're an honest person.
that
Yeah, Andrew, I'm not afraid of flying at all, but when I have a pilot that knows the Earth is flat, I'm definitely not afraid. Is when I have a globe pilot that might think of adjusting for
I think
curvature,
they'll
it
just
makes me
keep
a
the
little
okay,
nervous to fly.
okay, yeah. Look,
Right.
that's fair.
One last thing, and then I'll let Angel go again. The
Yep.
SR-71, now there's an SR-72 that goes 4,000 miles an hour. This thing would have to nose down at like 800 feet per second. That's 80 story
Constantly.
building. Yeah, constantly to follow the curve. The SR-72 allegedly goes 4,000 miles an hour. It would have to nose down, ready for this? 1 mile per second.
So they'd constantly have to like,
One
yeah, that's
mile per second. Now you could say, well, gravity, this, that doesn't matter. If you're taking a turn and you're moving off of your vector at 1 mile per second to the side, up, down, left, right, doesn't matter. You're dead. Okay. The amount of G's that is would liquefy the human body. But
And it would
but I mean,
destroy
at
the plane.
4,000 miles per hour, there are like plenty of. But are you saying the G-force that amounts to
if you're in a
dropping?
car going 100 miles an hour, it's sealed up, good suspension, perfectly smooth road, no problem. You can drink your tea, you're good to go. That car takes a turn left or right, the liquid goes in the opposite direction, right? Because there's a force. Turning off of a tangent line is acceleration, right? And so,
No.
yeah, yes, it is. So when you take a turn, that's when you feel the force, and that turning is acceleration, even though you're going the same speed. It's the same force, and so to adjust that much off of your vector is impossible. The SR-71 pilots that have spoken to us, they say when they're going full speed, they can't even turn left or right, let alone up or down. They can only go straight.
Okay.
Yep.
So, okay. So they can't drop.
The
Okay.
plane would rip apart. The plane would get destroyed. It's too much
Yeah.
force on the plane.
Okay. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But also,
Go ahead, Angel. Go ahead, Angel.
Also, right?
I'm just sort of
Okay.
thinking about that, I suppose. Yeah, I don't have anything sort of, interesting to
Listen, when
say
we're
about
done,
that,
you're going to have
unfortunately.
so many things that you're going to want to look into. I'm going to send you lots of resources where you can just go look and take your time. Here's the thing, and then I'm going to let Angel go.
I feel like you're evangelizing. It's
No,
lovely.
I'm not. I just like you, and you seem like I'm pretty good at sizing people up within seconds. I think you're a good, honest guy from the first
Thank you.
email you sent me. Okay,
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
there's not a lot of people like that. Where's I going with that? Oh, belief
Learned that
is
the
the
hard way.
enemy of knowing. I'm in the United States, right?
Favorite country in the world? Not really.
I'm in Connecticut. So now you have a belief. But do you know that I live in Connecticut?
No, of
You have a
course not.
belief.
I'm-
Right. I
yeah.
believe you're in Australia. You have the accent. You woke me up at 6 o'clock in the morning for this interview. So I
Yeah.
have a belief. I don't know it, but I could take a little bit of effort and figure it out. You could take some effort, but the time and effort is more difficult than just believing. Belief is easy. I believe there's a ball. I'm going to go smoke a joint right now and take a nap. Okay. It doesn't, you don't have to do any work, right? We're going to show you the evidence today, and then it's up to you what you do with it. Go ahead, Angel.
Yeah, so we've shown you that the plane would absolutely just rip apart. They travel a straight line according to the pitch data as well. I just want to talk about the spin real quick because they don't adjust for Coriolis either, which is the apparent deflection of an object in a rotating system. Now, they claim the Earth has Coriolis because it's spinning, right? So it's spinning at the equator.
Yeah. Can you just help me understand Coriolis though?
Yeah. So basically, if you're on a merry-go-round,
it's quite complex. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you're on a merry-go-round that's spinning and you're on the merry-go-round and you throw a ball, relative to the merry-go-round, it deviates because you're spinning under it, right?
Yeah.
So they claim the Earth has this effect because it's spinning. Now, the problem is...
You ever see when they have two people sitting on a merry-go-round and one person throws the ball to the other person? Why it's not moving, they throw the ball back and forth, no problem. Then they spin, and when he throws the ball goes whoop, goes off to the side because
yeah. I've seen that happen before. Yeah, I understand that.
that's what they say Coriolis is. That is what Coriolis is. Go ahead, Angel.
Yeah.
So then if this alleged effect was happening on the Earth, which it's not, because again, pilots have to assume the Earth is stationary as well. If a plane was landing on the north to south runway at the equator, right, perpendicular to the Earth's spin, then they would have to chase the runway sideways, 460 meters a second. That's how fast it's going in seconds when you do the math, or 1,500 feet per second, which is 1,037 miles an hour spinning at the equator. Now, the reason why it's so fast, okay, it's very simple. If you're on a merry-go-round and you now increase the radius of that merry-go-round, same as the Earth, and you spin that merry-go-round once in 24 hours, if you're standing on the edge of that merry-go-round, because it's covering such a large distance, you're now going 1,037 miles an hour.
Okay. But we're talking about if we're exposed to that sort of like, to that gravitational sort of pull. And again, we need to defer to the experts because we'd have to take into consideration sort of physics in the atmosphere, correct? Right?
So yeah. Well, the thing is, right, they claim it has Coriolis. So they're saying, okay, yeah, there is this apparent deflection. But I've debated so many people. I've debated so many people on this. And first they say, yes, it does have it. And then I say, okay, great. It has it. Nice. Okay. I'm going to let go of a helium balloon. Does the Earth rotate underneath the helium balloon and have a deviation? They say no. I go, okay. Does the sniper have to adjust for Coriolis? They say yes.
Let me stop you right there. You know that they claim that when snipers shoot, they have to account for the spin of the Earth. You've heard that, correct? So that's a story. Now, just last year, or maybe a little longer ago, the world record of 4-mile shot was taken. 4 miles. And one of our guys called, got in touch with them, was going back and forth, and he said he did not calculate Coriolis. Right? And we know many snipers, and none of them calculate Coriolis. And if you had to calculate Coriolis, think about it. If you're shooting a dead north, you'd have to know your exact latitude, the latitude of that person. You'd have to figure it out because the Earth is spinning at different speeds in all different latitudes. Right? At the equator, it's going 1,000 miles per hour. But at the North Pole, you're just pivoting like a ballerina. Right? But in America, it's going like 500 miles an hour, 600 miles an hour, 800, 1,000. Right? So calculating for it is insane. Go ahead, Angel. Angel has a great point, though. So they say that you have to calculate for bullets, but balloons don't have to calculate for it. Go ahead, Angel.
Yeah. So a hot air balloon, it can hover in the air. And the Earth is not going to rotate under 1,037 miles an hour if it was at the equator, correct? It's obvious, right? Yeah. So now, I asked them, let's put a sniper in the hot air balloon now. What happens? So you're telling me he takes a shot, it's going to rotate under the bullet, but it's not rotating under the hot air balloon, right? It's just a contradiction. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, but that's not how I sort of associate my understanding of the spin of the Earth, right? Because we don't feel that because it's all relative to us and where we're sort of standing. Because the equivalent is that, like, if that's true, that if you would just sort of like jump up in the air and you'd sort of land, you'd be slightly sort of at a different sort of point, right? And that's not what happens.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Andrew, you first, and then I'll add on to it.
All right, well, you made a good point. You don't feel it, right? This is funny.
Yeah.
So let me go back to the plane for just 1 second. When the plane's flying in a straight line, you don't feel it. When it turns a little bit, you feel it, correct?
Yeah.
That's because turning is acceleration. You're constantly changing vectors. Now let me ask you this. The Earth allegedly spinning 1,037 miles an hour at the equator. If you're standing at the equator, are you going to feel that?
No.
It's turning. It's turning.
Right? You're dropping at a mile per minute at that rate.
Yeah, but okay. If you were dropping a mile per minute and if you felt the speed like that, then yes, you'd feel it. But that's not my understanding of how.
I understand your understanding. So think about this. On the equator, the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour because it's just over 24,000 miles around. It goes around once per day. You're going 1,000 miles per hour. But up near the top, you're going much slower. So let's say we're a mile from the North Pole, 1 mile. We have a helicopter and we're a mile from the North Pole, right?
Yep.
And it just sat there on the runway for 24 hours. It's going to make a circle around the North Pole, but it's only going to go 6 miles.
Very short distance.
It's like a 6 mile circle, right? So it's going much slower. So that helicopter takes off and flies to Ecuador. The runway at Ecuador is moving sideways at 1,000 miles per hour. How does it get that sideways speed to land on the runway?
And by the way, claiming in the globe paradigm, a hovering helicopter violates the first law of thermodynamics, right? Because turning requires extra energy. Okay? If you're constantly changing vectors in a plane, that requires extra energy. Or in a car or anything, right? So a hovering helicopter hovering in its spot, they claim it just moves with the Earth, which is moving with the atmosphere, right? So they claim it actually is doing a circle in space for 24 hours, but it just appears stationary because, So what that claim literally violates the first law of thermodynamics. Where is it gaining the extra energy to constantly change vectors over the course of 24 hours? And by the way, the world record hover is over 50 hours. And then landed in the same spot.
Landed in the same spot and it was hovering for 50 hours?
Yeah.
That's the world record. World record.
I'll have to look into this. I don't have anything.
That's a good answer. Listen, and by the way, Andrew, don't believe anything we're telling you today. Verify everything.
I never would. Yeah. No. But I'm saying that as a smart ass, but I don't just take what anyone says at face value. Yeah, I like to
that's because you're a smart guy. Okay.
Thank you.
Andrew.
Not as smart as you though.
Here's the thing. Angel and I are ignorant about everything that we don't know, and so are you. Ignorant is not a bad word. It's a description for what. And I was ignorant to the Earth being a level, stationary, topographical, non-rotating plane, non-moving plane. This is a balloon we put up at 127,000 feet. Okay. 127,000 feet. It was up for 3.5 hours. Now you got to remember the balloon is detached from the Earth. The Earth is spinning to the east, right? The Earth spins to the east. That's why the sun appears to rise, or maybe the sun's just coming towards us. So it should have landed 3,000 miles to the west from where it took off, right? Because the Earth is spinning out from underneath it. Because the higher it goes, for it to stay over that same spot on Earth, it would actually have to accelerate from its original ground speed, right? Because the circle of the Earth is smaller than the circle of the orbit, right? So it would have to accelerate just to keep up with that point on the ground. It landed 100 miles east of where it took off. It was up for 3.5 hours, and somehow it outran the spin of the Earth, if the Earth was spinning, and landed east of where it took off. And
also the Felix jump too.
The Felix bump, the space ball, the Red Bull jump.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way,
so not only did he see a flat horizontal horizon through the actual view that he had, so he landed in the wrong direction. If the Earth is spinning like Dave just said, he should have landed west, right? He didn't. He landed east, the wrong direction. And as he jumped, gravity is supposed to get stronger towards the surface of the Earth, but he slowed down.
Right. And they showed this picture, and this is a fisheye lens from the camera on the outside. And we looked at the topography here. This is all New Mexico. When did New Mexico become a third of the Earth? Right. So this is proof that it's a fisheye lens. This is what everyone's like, oh, look at the Red Bull poo. Look, you can see the curve of the. This is all.
That's what I was going to say.
It's all New Mexico. All of that is New Mexico. Right.
Okay.
But there was one camera that wasn't a fisheye lens, and it was in the cockpit that he got in. So this is him getting in at ground level. And here is the horizon right here. Okay. There's the horizon. And he went up to 128,000 feet. And the horizon remained at the exact same level. Okay. Now, as you go up, the farther up you are, the farther you can see. The farther you can go out, the more the horizon will drop away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
yeah.
So that just doesn't happen. But here's the thing. Why I think I made my image a little too big today somehow. At that height, the Earth curve calculator says we can see 618 miles to the horizon. So if you were on the Earth and you wanted to see something that's 618 miles away, it would have to be 250,000 feet tall for you to see it, because the Earth curve would hide it. That's just on the ground.
Yeah.
Now raise yourself up to 128,000 feet, and the horizon would be 381,000 feet, which is a height that you can't even fathom below, but it's exactly where it was when he was on the ground.
I've got a good thing to share now. Just a quick video on it.
Go for it. Sharon, Angel. So large bodies of water at rest, first they need containment, and they lie flat. And they say, well, the Earth is so big, you can't see the curve, but using their math, and their math is crazy math. Let me get rid of the Suez Canal for a second. So we got a camera, and when water's flat and it gets cold, it freezes flat. So if you ever went ice skating on a lake, it's flat. The ice is flat, right? So we put our camera at 6 inches off the ice, and we put these 4 lights out here at 8 miles, 7 miles, 6 miles, and 5 miles. Now, the Earth is so big, well, what difference is that going to make? According to the Earth curve calculator, and if we add in, because they go, oh, refraction, things are refracting up from behind the ball. I added like 50% refraction. And this light should be well over 30 feet, 22 feet, 15 feet, and 9 feet behind the hill of the Earth. When I say the curvature is like a hill. Like if we were outside and there was a hill and you walked over the hill, you'd be hiding on the other side of the hill. And I could have the Hubble telescope and I couldn't zoom you back in because you're behind a physical hill. Okay.
Yeah. No,
so that's it. So you have 2 choices here. The camera's on the ice and it's looking at all of these lights that are at the same level, right? It's them, or the camera's on the ice. The horizon is at that height is less than a mile away, according to the Earth curve calculator. So the tangent line to that horizon, these are magically refracting up, and all of them are stopping exactly at that line. They're not going above it. They're not stopping below it. They're magically stopping on that line. That's the Glober explanation. This is the flat Earth explanation.
And by the way, on a frozen lake, that's like the least amount of weather conditions and refraction you can have.
Yeah, and it's cold, and it was nighttime. There's no humidity. So, the Suez Canal, 100 miles, built on a straight datum line. There is no curvature. There should be over a mile of curvature. A mile. It should be a mile hump in the middle. And it's straight and level.
But what do you mean straight level? Because you're talking about the datum, so datum refers to a reference point. So if I mean, wouldn't it like slowly just curve like gradually over, like a long distance? But when you talk about level, there's no like spirit level big enough for you to sort of like make that claim, I
Well,
suppose.
put it this way,
Yeah, I
right?
want to say about that.
A Olympic swimming pool would obviously have flat water, right? Now,
Yeah.
if it was 1 mile long, do you think it would have curvature or no?
If it was 1 mile long, I'd say it'd have a very imperceptible curve based on the globe model, which, yeah,
Yeah, it would
I
have to have
suppose, yeah, I
it would
suppose,
have to
yeah.
have 8 inches. It would have to have 8 inches. But we've measured beyond 1 mile and there's no curve, right? So
How do you do
also,
that? Because like I do construction, right? And I know from 2 points I actually completely forgot because my brain's fried at the moment. But like, how do you actually measure the two sort of points, over a mile? What tool do you use?
well,
Because on job
well,
sites you can barely do it over 50 meters. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
exactly, exactly. Which is
yeah,
funny because they claim that we have globies doing theodolite measurements of hundreds of miles away, which is just ridiculous. Which,
Right. It doesn't
yeah.
work.
So,
It doesn't
but
work.
yeah.
yeah,
But the thing is, right, on a globe model, on the globe paradigm, the horizon is the Earth's curvature that boats go over, correct? So,
yeah. I know that.
Dave has got on his screen the
Mhm.
horizon past 9.4 miles.
Yeah. So
Now, on it, yeah, go ahead.
this platform is 9.4 miles away, 6.2 miles away. Now, again, doesn't seem like far, but according to Earth Curve Calculator, at this point, the horizon should be 59 feet below this camera lens. 59 feet. Now, you can claim, look, there's some distortion in here. Yeah, the atmosphere distorts over distance, but look what we see.
Yeah.
The horizon is miles behind it. Now, the only explanation is all the points in that water are refracting up different amounts. The farther away are, the more they have to refract up, and they're stopping at eye level again to magically try to fool you that the Earth is flat, or maybe
Yeah.
just the Earth is flat. You
So
should
also,
not be able to. The everything should be behind, well behind this. The horizon should be here.
the horizon should be in front of both those oil rigs. It's behind them, and we've
It's
got
behind
multiple
them.
of these kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. We have videos, not just pictures. We have laser tests. We have windmills. We have all of these things. But then the globies come out and go, well, you can't see the bottom. You can't see the bottom. Um, that's because
Irrelevant.
yeah, yeah. You can't. You should
It's
be able to
irrelevant.
see the whole thing, right? This is the world record photo. It shows all these mountains here, and this one, Pic Gaspard in the French Alps, 275 miles away. It's 12,000 feet tall. The photo elevation was taken from 9,000 feet, and the target hidden height should be over 16,000 feet. That means that the top of the mountain should be 3,700 feet below the curve, but we can see the whole thing. We can see it, right?
Also, Andrew, I wanted to show you something very interesting, right? So you believe that boats go over this physical curve, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
All right.
I mean, it's not believe or don't believe. I believe that when boats are on the seas
All
and
right.
you're standing, on the shore, eventually it's going to disappear behind the horizon, right? Like that hill
Okay.
kind of model um,
Yes.
uh, that David was mentioning. Yeah, the curve is sort of like going over a hill. So I do
All right.
believe,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
I can disprove that the horizon is Earth's curve. I can disprove that easily. It's all it is it's due to the way we see eyesight and weather.
Mhm.
That's all it is. The horizon on the Earth, by definition, is an apparent location. It's not a physical location that boats go over. It's an apparent location.
Of course.
It's
Yeah, I
defined by
understand.
the apparent location where the sky meets the Earth's surface. So if you're looking out on the ocean, it would be the sky meeting the water. Now, on screen, I've got a hallway overlaid over the ocean. Now,
Mhm.
the hallway floor is obviously flat. We know that it's not curving down and away from us, but they're
Yeah.
claiming that the water, the ocean is, but it ramps up optically just the same. So now I'm going to show you something else that's very interesting. Um, I actually have done observations over the water, and I'm going to play it, and I'm going to pull the boat back into view.
So hold on.
Prove,
So you can't see the boat, but as he zooms in, go ahead. As he zooms
yeah.
in, you all of a sudden you can see it again. So this has to do with several things. One of them is the angular resolution limits of our eyes. But look, there's that boat all of a sudden.
Right. So now the other thing is they're telling you that the horizon's curving down and away from us in all directions because it's a ball, right? But the lucky thing I got in this image, or in this video, was that there was a buoy that was closer to us than the boat. Now, this is the interesting thing, because you couldn't see the buoy or the boat before I zoomed in, so they were too far away. But my question is, if the Earth is curving down and away from us in all directions, then how come the boat in the distance appears higher than the buoy that's closer? If it's curving down and away, why does it keep rising up? And the reason for that is because it's all optical. It's all optical. Like the hallway, it's just rising up.
Let me show. Stop sharing for a sec. So right in this picture here, I got a mountain and a boat, right? A mountain and a boat, and we're zoomed in. So our consumer optics have outgrown their lives. But when we zoom out, watch what happens. Not only to the boat, all of the boats and the mountain, they just disappear. And if I didn't have that zoom lens, people would be like, "Oh, that mountain is." I'm not actually sure how far this one is specifically, but they'd be like, "Oh, you can't see it because of the curvature of the Earth." No, you can't see it because you can't see it because of angular resolution limits of your eyes. Somebody just sent me this video. Check this out. So again, we got nothing out here. He's zooming in. He's zooming in. This is 26 miles away, and we get the NASA launch facility. Now, maybe there's a beach here. You can't see it. You got these trees here. Now, as things go into the distance, they get smaller, right? It's big, it's small, right? So if we push that NASA building farther away, it would get smaller and it would dip down below the trees, right?
Of course, yeah.
Of course. Okay. So these trees, when zoomed in like this, you know that they're trees. They're above the water. So the trees are 100 feet above, the viewer. Okay. You can logically work that out in the recesses of your mind, right? So when we zoom out, watch what happens. All of this becomes your apparent eye level. All of this.
Yeah. At that point, yeah.
At that point, all of it. So now you have to imagine the sun. If the sun was going away, anything above that is going to go beyond it and disappear. It's going to look like it's disappearing below it. But and I just noticed in this right now, I'm going to stop right here. Look, here we got a buoy in the foreground, and everything's getting higher in the background. Everything's higher. Everything should be sloping down and away from you. You, from your point of view, are at the top of the world at all times. And everything, the farther away it is, should be sloping down and away. But nothing slopes down and away. It all ramps up to your apparent eye level.
And by the way, remember, when you go up in altitude, the horizon raises with you. So remember, previously we showed you the Felix Baumgartner jump, and the horizon was right in the middle of his opening there that he jumped out of.
Yeah.
So if the Earth is curving down and away, the second you go up in altitude, if the horizon's Earth curve, it should just curve down and away. But even all the way up at that altitude, 127,000 feet, was still there.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I actually made a note about the Red Bull jump thing because I think that's really interesting, and I don't really have much to comment sort of about it, but I do want to research that a little bit more.
You can, they did two other jumps before that one. They did two other jumps, but they didn't use GoPro fisheye lenses on them, right? And if you could find the footage on that, they're all level and there's no curvature. Then they changed the cameras, and then that's what they aired.
But I want to show you something on angular resolution going back to the horizon as well. So there's another video I have where this is how the horizon works. Okay, so I've got my flat kitchen table, right, and you can see the reason why I put the camera at the edge of the table is because the horizon ramps up optically again, right? So even though we know it's actually below us, due to the angle of our eye, it raises all the way up. See that? And that's all this is doing. It's creating the horizon on a smaller scale. So now when I play the video, I reveal the boat, and you can see that I've put a screw behind the cap, right? So you're seeing the top of the table. And then you zoom back out, and there you go, right? So now there's a coin on the end of the table, right? And as he zooms in, it reveals the coin again, right? So then you put the coin down, and you can still see the coin. It's on top of the table, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is how the horizon works. It's an optical location. It's the limitations of your vision. It's the vanishing point.
Yep.
People that do.
Yeah, I understand how horizons work.
Stop sharing for a second. Let me just show you this. So here we have a sunset, and here we have a coin on the table. Now, I'm going to argue on the globe side, the camera is slightly lower than the table. It is. And so that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. But our horizon appears to be at eye level. But as I showed you with those trees and everything, including the atmosphere over distance, becomes opaque, and it all ramps down. So things just go beyond the horizon. Let me show you. I did a kitchen. Kitchens are a great place to prove flat Earth. So here I have a line, a line going over my counter, and it's level. And I got a camera up at a celestial point of view, the height of the sun, and I'm just watching it go. Now, this could be mountains, could be clouds, whatever, but I'm above it and I'm level. You can see that. Now, I have a camera on the counter on the far end looking up at this. I'm going to show you what that looks like from a terrestrial point of view, which is where we live. And when I look at this line, if I showed you this first, I said, is this line level? You'd say, no, it's sloping down, like, pretty steep. Yeah, cool. And I like, is this sun going below this mountain or whatever it is? And you'd be like, yeah, of course it is. Right. And if I zoom in even more, look at this line. This is a level line, and this is not going below. It's going beyond. Right. Yeah. It's going beyond. Now, if we compare that to a real sunset, so here it is. And this is a real sunset. This is just the celestial point of view. Look, what's going on here? What is this doing? Is it going below the curve of the Earth, or is it just going beyond what I call the atmospheric deck of opacity? It looks exactly like this.
Very philosophical. I love that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then, people say, well, what about the sun? I could see the sun setting. Look, the sun looks like it's setting there, right below. Now, this horizon line, in my opinion, is 10,000 feet above your eye level. But when we zoom in, we can see, wait a minute, the sun isn't setting. It's just going away. Yeah. The optics of the sky. And here's the thing. The only proof globers have is looking up at the lights in the sky. But if you want to get into what the lights in the sky are, they violate natural law, right? How much does a balloon filled with helium weigh? Take the balloon away. How much does the helium weigh?
I don't know.
It defies gravity. You agree with that? It goes up, right?
Sorry, yeah. Well, helium is lighter than...
It has mass.
Okay, it has mass, but it defies gravity. And they tell us our sun is made from helium and hydrogen, 98, 99% helium and hydrogen. So when you get mass and you put it in a low pressure system or a no pressure system, what does it do? It immediately fills the available space. If I had a box of helium, a box of air, a box of hydrogen, whatever, and I was in a room that had no air and I poked a hole, instantly it would just fill the space, instantly and violently. But in space, helium and hydrogen somehow collapse and turn into burning balls of gas that somehow have gravity. Our sun burns 640 billion tons a day. This is what they tell us, right? For billions of years, but it doesn't get any smaller. It can hold on to Pluto, no problem. Jupiter, Uranus, right? It holds on, but it ignores our moon. Like as our moon comes around the Earth towards the sun, shouldn't it speed up a little bit? And when it goes away, shouldn't it be tugged back? Remember, our sun, helium and hydrogen, defying natural law in a space vacuum, is holding on to Pluto, but it ignores our moon. Well, that's because the moon's closer to the Earth and the Earth's gravity negates the sun's gravity.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, I know you were.
Well, something similar to that.
We were all programmed. So our Earth gravity negates the other gravity goes around. Oh, Earth gravity, get out of the way. I'm going to go around it and holds on to Pluto. This is a childhood religious belief.
Yeah. So let me ask you something. Okay, good.
Go ahead.
Respond. Okay, so you don't need to believe NASA. You don't need to believe anything because space violates natural law. Narnia doesn't verify Narnia. If I show you a video of me in Narnia, you don't believe in Narnia because it doesn't exist, right? So let me do it very simply for you. Well, let's say we're in a car and it's closed. Okay, and we
Yeah.
spray a Lynx can, the gas spreads out in all directions, and you can smell that perfume everywhere in the car because that's how gas behaves. It fills available space and expands out.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, gotcha.
If we open the windows, what happens to that gas?
Goes out the window.
Okay.
Right. Unless
So
I'm
we're
listening to some sort of clever point.
so we're breathing air right now, and they're telling us we're coexisting next to a vacuum without a container. Now I'm going to show you what happens
We do have a
when
container because I think I was anticipating something like this, right?
Gravity.
But the atmosphere acts as that container, correct?
so let me
Say,
answer that.
according to the Glober kind of model, right? That's
No,
the cap, right? At our
no,
atmosphere. Okay.
no. So atmosphere is a contradiction. Atmos is air and sphere is the shape, and gases do not take on shapes. They take on the shapes of their container, and they have to be contained. In the gas laws, there's no gravity anywhere. It's pressure over volume and V. V is the volume, is the container of the gas. And the definition of gas pressure is the amount of force exerted by the particles on the walls of its container. Without a container, you cannot have gas pressure. They're claiming that in the sky is a vacuum. Eventually, you go high enough and there's no air or very little, right? So in this guy here, he's an old scientist. He had in one end, he's got gas, he's got a valve, and then on this end, it's a vacuum. So he's taken the air out. So what's going to happen is he's going to open the valve, and immediately it's going to seek equilibrium, and the gas is going to be here and here now. So yeah,
Right. And no matter what angle he had that at, if it was upside down, the gas was on the top, gas was on the bottom, gas was helium, gas was nitrogen, doesn't matter. It's instantly going to fill in every direction.
Yeah.
And they claim that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they claim that our atmos is, the space vacuum is essentially an infinite volume, which is, by the way, still expanding, which if you increase volume of a container, you decrease the pressure. That's Boyle's law, which doesn't happen on Earth. We always have a constant, pressure, whatever. But so what should happen is the vacuum of space, infinite vacuum of 10 to the minus 17 torr, and the little tiny bit of gas we have in this little speck of an infinite universe should instantly equalize. We should have a vacuum on Earth right now. We should have no air or water for that matter.
Right, and
water
also
then boils.
And so
I actually agree with you 100%, right? But see, in my mind, right, I've always felt like that's the miracle of life on Earth, right? That's that sort of like impossible sort of one in a gajillion
you're saying
sort of chance of happening,
look at the word impossible. Okay, it's impossible, but you have to make up a story because you have a belief, and if you're trying to explain everything, so you literally need to make up stories from Narnia about it. So they say that gravity holds the air down. This is the only thing they say. Gravity holds the air down, and the higher up you get, the air gets thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner until there's no gravity. Okay,
that's what I'd say. Yeah,
you have a tall tank of oxygen or whatever gas, and it's a third full. The bottom will be liquid, the middle will be thicker gas, the top will be thinner gas. There's your pressure gradient. Poke a hole anywhere in that tank, all the gas is immediately gone. Right, so you have your pressure gradient, but if the vacuum of space, we can't even recreate it here on Earth, right? Because on Earth they have a vacuum. NASA has a vacuum chamber allegedly that the walls are 10 feet thick of steel and concrete. Otherwise, the whole thing would just collapse. Okay, it would just collapse. So gravity's holding the air down. I'm down here on Earth where the gravity is the strongest. It gets weaker as you go higher allegedly. But I can take a straw, and I can take water or air, and with the super tiny low pressure system of my mouth and lungs, I could pull water and air up and away from the Earth. How come?
Those medicine.
Yeah. How come I can suck water and air up and away from gravity effortlessly, but the Torr 17 vacuum, which you can't even fathom, can't?
Yeah, exactly. So those little droppers that you use for medicine or whatever, or you squeeze it. It creates a low pressure system inside that little, tube, and then you put it in water, and it sucks up the water. That tiny little vacuum that's in there, nothing comparable to what's supposedly in the actual atmosphere right now, 10 to the minus 17 torr, and that defies gravity. But the huge vacuum that we have up there supposedly is not doing anything. It's just sitting there, and it's defying natural law. What they're claiming is actually violating the second law of thermodynamics. All of our gas should just disperse and we'd have no way to breathe.
I'd say that the law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the vacuum of space, and
Oh, it
that
absolutely does. It absolutely does.
I don't okay, but that's fair. But I suppose that's just my natural sort of inclination. That's something that I'm compelled to say about that.
To
But
hold your
like,
religious belief. True. I agree with you. Hey, everybody, quick message that I'd like to share with all of you. Our lives are filled with toxins in our air, food, and even in the information we're taught. Avoiding them all is impossible, but helping your body detox doesn't have to be complicated. That's where Masterpiece comes in. Just 5 drops under your tongue twice a day, and that's it. Super easy, super simple, and it doesn't even taste bad. I've tried countless supplements, and while generally I'm pretty healthy, I didn't really feel much of an effect. But with Masterpiece, it delivered noticeable benefits. Check out the podcast I did with Terry from Masterpiece, linked below this video, or you can find links directly to Masterpiece on my website, flatearthdave.com, or in the shopping section on the app. The key to health is to detoxify. Now back to the show.
look, yeah, no, I get that. No, I really understand that. But I'm fascinated by the whole idea of like, so the fact that you think that like atmosphere, does it exist to you, or does it not?
We're in
So
some sort of
because
containment.
We have a container around the whole Earth.
like the Truman Show,
Yes.
because that's the way that
essentially.
I've sort of,
like
you know,
Yes.
yeah. Who
You know, like
created
the
it?
Simpsons movie?
Great
God did.
question. God created it. Sure.
God did. Yeah, there you go. Remember,
God
you remember how I
created
said you remember how I said it must be this special kind of thing, like impossible scenario? Well, no, it's not. God created it.
Well, no, but that's the impossible scenario, right? So
Yeah.
I
We have
don't know.
but we have a logical answer. It's God. If you look on page 1 of the Bible, not to get too biblical, but
Yeah,
it
but
tells you
that's
right
not
there who made
logical,
the
right?
container.
But that's not logical, right? You're
Well,
referring to a book, right? That has its
Yeah.
own sort of tonal sort of logic,
But
right?
but but
You
but the same way,
can't
you're
defer to the
referring.
Bible to talk about, you know,
I
like
understand.
regardless of whether it's a flat Earth or it's
Oh,
globalism. Like, I get annoyed because like I'm quite religious, right? I find that mildly offensive, annoying, or whatever. Like the Bible's the Bible, right? And science is
yeah.
science, right? I mean, science still exists within the flat Earth sort of
Yeah.
model, right?
But
Yeah,
but
like
Andrew, you know that science goes hand in hand with God. Science proves God, and that's why they've done all this to remove God. What the Big Bang and the globe paradigm?
no, I find that really interesting that you say that, because I don't actually disagree, because my
Yeah,
father-in-law like said that basically like the field with the least amount of religious, or the highest amount of atheists, right? People that don't believe in God are like, you know, basically the STEM fields, right? Something like, you know, 0.9% of
yeah,
scientific academics kind of believe in God, right?
yeah.
I
Science proves
get
God.
that if you're scientific.
So here's the thing. When before
I
flat Earth,
don't agree with that.
hold,
I'm so sorry,
hold
David.
on.
Go ahead.
We're gonna stick on the Bible just for a minute. But before flat Earth, I was
Sure.
researching all sorts of things, and anytime anyone bring up the Bible, the Quran, anything religious, I'd write them off as religious kooks. I was an atheist. If that's I don't know what I was, but I didn't believe in God. I believed in evolution. But if you look at in the Bible, it says that the human body is made up of 6 elements: oxygen, carbon. Oh, in reality, the human body is made of oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, and phosphorus. Point 0.85 is other materials. Okay. And so in Genesis 2:7, it says God formed humans from the dust of the ground, right? So
Hmm.
if you look at humans, we come in all different colors. Okay. What comes in all different colors? Uh, the earth comes in the same colors as humans. So we were made from the dust in the ground. Interesting analogy.
Interesting analogy. Yeah.
But here's the other thing.
I'll just leave it at
Also,
that.
God
Like
said,
beautiful, creative,
yeah,
quite poetic,
sure.
right? You know,
God
because
created man.
I'm that inclined, right?
God
Yeah.
created man, and then how did He
Yeah.
create women? Do you know? He
Hmm?
said God took
Adam's rib.
Adam's
Right.
rib.
Yeah.
How many bones in
Yeah.
the human body? Angel, 206, I think, is the number.
Yeah,
Right,
something
whatever.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but only one bone is capable of regenerating, and that's the rib.
No. Okay. No, what are you talking
Yes.
about? Because when you said bone
Bone can
and
regenerate
regenerate,
itself from
I
nothing.
went to like Luke Holtz.
Not just mend, but it can a
Mhm.
rib can regenerate itself. And so
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, and it's it's the only one. So either the writers of the Bible were extremely lucky in guessing all of this,
Hmm.
or maybe it was divinely inspired or written.
I do think the Bible was divinely inspired, right? I really, really do.
Okay,
I don't think that it's a scientific sort of work, but I think
I
that
think it's the most scientific book. It's everything in
I
it
think
has
I
been
think
proven
it
true.
contains like essential truths, right? Moral truths, right? But science, at least the way that I sort of understand it, right? It's something separate, right? But it does, in my opinion, it does get to deeper truths that science can't really sort of get to. I think it's a higher kind of
There's
truth
well,
there's no
than science,
explanation in
really, in my
evolution how
opinion.
the rib can be the only bone that regenerates, and that the Bible said that God created woman from Adam's rib. There's no explanation in the heliocentric world for that.
No, but I mean, like again, it's a metaphor, right? So perhaps,
Is
it
it?
was identified that ribs can regenerate, right? So that sort
Right.
of led to this sort of jakey, pontification or this poetic prose on the meaning of the rib and the fact that it can regenerate, right? So a rib was removed to
Wait a minute.
create
Is that
a
why is that
woman.
poetic prose? Why is that poetic prose when it's
Poetic, it's lovely.
well, it's the truth though. It's scientifically proven.
Oh no, yeah, yeah, yeah. It doesn't. No, no. And I'm not saying it's false. I'm just saying it's more poetic than it is scientific, right? But I
No,
mean,
it's
and
scientific,
also in and of
and
itself,
it's
it doesn't
beautiful in
prove.
the fact that it's
Yeah, yeah,
scientific
yeah,
and
yeah,
true. That makes it
yeah.
poetic. We're poetic. We're beautiful human beings in this incredible soul system, a system built for souls to have experiences. Right? We're not in a soul lure system. We're in a soul system. Right? And so when you say it's poetic
Yeah,
because it's true.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. Well, that ribs regenerate, right? And I think that's sort of beautiful. And then someone sort of applied that, and then you could perhaps apply that to the idea that God created Eve out of Adam's rib. But I suppose what I'm saying is that it's not necessarily like a scientific kind of claim. It's just
well,
something
I'll give you a
just
science one.
about your bones. Okay, go ahead. But I really want to explore more this kind of like religious kind of ties to flat Earth because that's
Yeah, yeah,
how
yeah. Yep.
I came to sort of know David
Well,
or flat
the
eartherism or that's what interested me about reaching out to someone from flat Earth.
the
Um,
Bible
Go ahead.
states that the earth takes shape like clay under a seal. When you press out a wax seal, it's
Mhm,
it's a flat terrain with upturned edges. I don't know if you can see that,
Right
right?
mhm.
here.
That's
Right
a
here, right
that's a
here, right
pressed out
here.
seal.
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's funny because the first person to go in the stratosphere was Auguste Piccard. People don't know that because he was erased from history. Because what he said when he went up there, he said that he saw what appeared to be a flat disc with an upturned edge, right? Which is a seal
Interesting.
pressed out, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
also,
yeah.
but also, science absolutely does prove God, okay? Because the second law of thermodynamics is number one for me, but
Hmm.
also just the gas laws in general. The gas laws are all, and the V for volume is the container, okay? You can't blow
Hmm.
up a balloon without a balloon there. You can't pump a tire without the tire there to gain the pressure. You have to have something in the way, right,
Hmm.
to create the pressure. The fact that we have a pressure gradient, yeah, that's fine. We're still talking about pressure. The antecedent for a gas pressure gradient is also a container. Just because there's less pressure doesn't mean there's no requirement for a container, right? So again, in the Bible, if you want to talk about it, yeah, on page 1 of the Bible, it says that he put the firmament in the midst of the waters. The firmament would be this, a container that Earth has, right?
Yeah. Well, the
Containing
atmosphere.
containing containing our atmosphere, right? So
Yeah.
and it's funny because he put that in the midst of the waters. Now, I don't know if you've ever looked yourself with high power optics or P1000s or cameras or whatever, but the stars appear to be like in a water medium, or they are water themselves. And another interesting thing is the second verse of the Bible tells you what they think space is, and it's water. He hovered above the face of the waters, and then he said with his voice, let there be light. Now, there's a thing called sonoluminescence. And if you look, that's what a star looks like. It shimmers, right? Sonoluminescence is where you can take a flask of water and put certain sound waves into it and create light, create a star in a jar. And again, the Bible says God spoke and said, let there be light. And he had all this water there.
He created the universe, the one verse, right? When we look at stars with today's consumer optics, we can see that they're not the sizes and distances that they tell us. Let me show you something of this. So we look up at a star, we see Sirius, it's a good sized star, and we see Orion, it's a smaller star, right? But then I can zoom in, and with the optical zoom, not the digital zoom on my P1000, and I can make it this big, right? So I'm zooming in. They tell us it's 8.6 light years away, 50 trillion miles. Andrew, did anyone ever teach you how big 1 trillion is?
Yeah, like I get it. It's unfathomable how far.
How long is 1 trillion seconds? Just so you understand how big a trillion is.
Like, oh God, like I don't know, it'd probably take like hundreds of years to count or something.
31,000 years is 1 trillion seconds. So this star is 50 trillion miles away, and I could zoom in and make it this big in my lens. I've got to. How is that even possible that I can make it any bigger at that distance? Now, hold on, it gets worse. Orion, I can almost make it the same size, right? Mm-hmm. So for me to almost make it the same size, it would have to be the same distance, close to the same distance, but it's not. It's 52 million times farther than 50 trillion miles.
Yeah.
So this would have to be 52 million times bigger than Sirius for me to be able to zoom it in the same amount.
Yeah.
You can't calculate what that is, but I'm zooming in and I'm able to bring this up to size. So either Orion is 52 million times bigger and has to be like 52 million times brighter, which is impossible because light fades out over distance. It's called the inverse square law of light, right? So these, for anyone that wants to understand zooming and size and inverse square law of light, absolutely 100% prove that they're lying to us. I can zoom in on the moon, in focus, zoom past the moon out of focus, zoom before the moon out of focus, zoom back in on the moon in focus. I can do the same with stars. I can do the same with planets. The funny thing is, I can zoom in on a planet, then I can move it to the moon, move it to the sun, move it to another planet, and they're all in focus. I don't need to refocus.
Yeah, let me show you something very interesting. So the moon, right?
What point?
Go ahead.
Yeah, but what point were you trying to make, though, David?
My point is that the focus, the mechanical focus on my camera is telling me that these things that I'm looking at are the same distance away.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not far away. They're not far away in space like they claim all these crazy distances.
Okay, so the overall point that you're making is that it's an extension of the whole sort of firmament and your idea of the universe, like space is filled with a bunch of lights and planets that aren't as far as science would have you believe.
Well, when you say lights and planets, I say lights, because the light that we see coming off of Jupiter and Mars and stuff, it's a light. It's not reflecting a light. It is a light. And what these are, and here's the only thing that we can positively say about any of the luminaries, sun, moon, stars, asteroids, anything in the sky. The only thing Angel and I can absolutely 100% say about them is they're lights. That's it.
Okay, but I actually wanted to mention this. What about when, if they begin to terraform or go to the moon and Mars, like Musk?
Yeah. So again, right
in 2029, right? What do you think that'll be all about?
Photos and videos from Narnia do not verify Narnia. Again, space violates natural law. It doesn't exist.
So we're living in the present now in 2025, all right? But let's just say a hypothetical, right? What if what he's saying is true, and you can actually okay.
But Before
Okay.
you
Because
go ahead.
I'd be curious to see what that would do to your worldview if
Yeah,
it was true, right? And I just want to leave it at that because neither of us sort of know if that's actually going to happen. I don't know if humans
Andrew,
have actually
Never will.
been to Mars.
Andrew, this has
Uh,
been since the 1960s. Everyone's like, we're going to the moon, we're going to go back, we're going to go to Mars, and they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And we can get into it. We can show you that they're faking everything in space. We can show you that they're not on the ISS. We can show you that them faking things again and again and again. And at some point, you have to go, okay, if they're faking that, they're faking everything. Good, Angel,
yeah.
show them, and then I'll show them.
Yeah, I was just going to show this because this is from NASA's website. Okay, they're claiming that this is a real image of the moon, which is that little tiny dot, and the Earth. Okay, now if you think about that scale, that's very far away. My camera can zoom in on a boat that's what 10 miles away. Okay, fair enough, but look how close I can get to the moon when I zoom with my camera that I just showed you, zooming in on that boat. Okay, look how close I can get.
Zooming in
Are you
on
telling me? Yeah. Are you telling me I'm zooming 384,000 kilometers and getting the moon, that little tiny moon, so it appears like a basketball in front of my face? That's insanity.
But
There's
what do you
no
think
way
you're
the
looking
moon.
at through your telescope, though? Because that's
I'm
not a
looking at
star.
no,
No,
it's the moon.
that's the
This
moon.
is the moon, right? Yeah. So I'm just saying it's not that far away. I can show you more evidence where
Hold that picture right there. You see the crater, the white, the Enceladus crater,
Yeah.
the crater on the bottom. Put your mouse on it, the white one.
this one.
No, that one right there. They tell us that's 40 or 50 miles wide. Okay,
Mhm.
right? Go on Google Earth, put a circle on the Earth 40 or 50 miles wide, a red circle, and then zoom out as far as Google Earth will allow you, which is like 250 miles, or maybe it's just a short distance. Maybe it's a couple thousand miles, and you can't see it. It just disappears. It becomes invisible.
Yeah.
But we can see that crater with our naked eye at 250,000 miles away.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the
but,
angular resolution limits of that is 100% proves that it's not. Maybe the moon is a million times bigger than they're telling us. Okay,
maybe. But what do you think the moon is? Because that looks like a
the light.
sphere.
Oh, well,
I have
actually,
lots of beliefs what the moon is, but I can't prove it. But here's one funny thing: is the moon regulates women's birth cycles. You tell me what the moon is now.
Sorry, that statement just leaves me speechless. I don't know what to say about that. Like, I don't. I've never had an association between the moon and women's sort
Oh,
of.
go ahead,
can
Angel.
I tell you something?
Because it's a full
So
moon tonight, by the way. So what does that mean?
yeah, hang on.
That's when
So
people become lunatics.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
It
I wonder
affects
if I'm
people,
a bit
but
spicy.
I,
Yeah.
I've asked the girl before how many menstrual cycles she has. She said she had 13. Now,
It's a weak
if we
question, Angel.
I ask women that every day.
and this is the specific, this is why I asked it. This is why, okay?
Oh God, you
Because
guys are amazing.
the moon takes about 28 days to do its phases and then start again. 28 days, okay?
Yep.
Now, if we had 28 days of 13 months, which she had, by the way, 13 of them, we would have 364 days in a year. And I'm pretty sure, Dave, am I right in saying that the Ethiopians still work on that calendar?
Everything works on that calendar. It's 13 months of 28 days, and then 1 day to reset the year, and that's April 1st. So
Right.
happy New Year a couple days ago.
Yeah.
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 A few days, well, no, more than a couple.
So
You're gonna
Yeah, sorry, but yeah, this to me, I have to admit, sounds wild. Like, I don't know what territory we're going in now, but like,
let me tell you something
so
else. Let me tell you something else.
what do you think the connection is? Like, no, but look, what do you think the moon is, and how do you think it's affecting women's menstrual
Well,
cycle
go ahead, Angel.
specifically? I suppose.
Well, the thing is, biblically speaking, again, it's just a light like the sun, and we
Okay.
know this, right? Okay, because the moon gives off cold light. It doesn't give off the same heat like the sun does. Now, if they're saying that the
Yeah.
sun is hitting the moon, reflecting and coming back, so if I have a mirror and I reflect sunlight, it's going to be hot light. Okay. The thing is, the moon is not hot light. You can measure it from compared to the shade of the moon to the actual moonlight, direct moonlight, the direct moonlight is going to be colder than the shade, proving that it's not even reflecting hot sunlight at all. It's a light in the sky.
Yeah.
So just going back to Mars for a second. This is this NASA discovers bizarre Martian rocks that defy explanation. What's this? And what's this?
Oh. All right. Well, okay.
It's life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so just we've heard it a million times. Just wait, they're going to have hotels in space. They've been saying that since the 70s. Okay. This is a picture of the rover, and we zoomed in on it. This was off of their website. There's a fly. So they got three possibilities. One, a fly was stuck inside the rover somewhere and somehow survived the trip. Two, there's flies on Mars. Or three, they're not on Mars.
Yeah.
You pick. Your religious belief is going to pick one or two, but reality and common sense should pick another, right?
Yeah.
Here's just another one. This is from Mars, right? The shadow on this little helicopter that magically flies in 1% atmosphere is coming this way, but there's no shadow here, right? So that's interesting. But more interesting is where does my other one go? Actually, I have another one where the shadows are absolutely ridiculous. But this is a picture from NASA of Mars. Now, NASA, do you know what their budget is daily? Their daily budget? It's $84 million a day. Okay. My daily budget is negative. It's a negative number. Okay. Yeah. I spend money that I don't even have. Right. So I took
you in debt.
And in 30 seconds, I turned it into Earth.
Okay.
And then I turned it into the moon. Or is it a construction site in New Jersey? Okay. And then they want us to believe that, you can take the NASA pictures. No, you actually go on Google Earth, go to Devon Island in Canada, zoom in,
I'll do that.
and there's pictures of high-res pictures, and you can take them and drop them into Google image search, and it comes up with NASA photos.
I'll see if I can do that now. I can find them. You can actually see the NASA employees there as well, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's one. I did it. I took this off of Devon Island. I dropped it in, and these are all NASA results. These are Mars. I took a picture from Devon Island, and Google image search told me it's Mars.
Okay. So you think that the images on NASA of Mars are of Devon Island?
Correct.
Yeah, we can even. Do you have the where they do the research there? We found the base where they actually have the Mars rover, and there's pictures of it on Google Earth.
Yeah.
And they've got like a camp set up with all the instrument. I found a photo of them from Google Earth. I went on there, and they've got a tripod set up and all NASA employees everywhere.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You can look at it yourself.
All right.
I'll see if I can find the video I made on that.
Yeah. See if you can find it. I don't know. I'm vexed, guys. I'm vexed.
I know, because we're challenging don't take offense, your religious beliefs, because you have a belief system because a guy, a teacher told you, and you read it in a book, and all the programming that you've watched your entire life supports it, right? This is to disconnect you from your true potential. This is what it's about. Because if you live on a spinning ball flying through an infinite expanding universe, the best God that you could have is a diluted one, right? You want to dilute something, pour it into something bigger like infinite space. Okay. If you understand that we are at the center of creation, okay, people say, oh, that's very egotistical. Well, it is egotistical if the universe was how they explain it. And like, we're the only, it was the truth. We're the only planet, right? No, we're not the only planet in the center of a gigantic expanding universe. This universe is where we live, and we are at the center of creation. This is all that there is, right?
Exactly.
Now, we don't know if there's more stuff beyond the shoreline of Antarctica. We don't know, but it's interesting. There's interesting stuff to look there.
What
I
do
want
you
to.
think that's beyond the shoreline, right? Because you spoke of God and this universe, right? And the universe is confined to the firmament, right?
Yeah.
So anything beyond the walls of Antarctica
We don't know.
We
would
don't
be,
know.
We don't know.
but I mean, would that contradict the idea of a universe? Do you think that there's other kinds of people? There's aliens or something
No,
beyond that?
we don't
Dave,
know. We don't know,
if you
but
were able to sort of
yeah.
just let your mind kind of wander, where would it wander? Like,
Yeah.
where
Well, the
would it
thing
go?
is, right?
You're quite creative and smart, so I
Good.
want to figure out what David would come up
It's
with. What do you think is beyond Antarctica?
okay. Well, it could be a lot of things. It could be at the end of the day, it's speculation, right? Because we haven't been there. We're not allowed to go there. But the thing is, right, there could be extra land. The firmament could touch down just past Antarctica, and there's the dome there. We don't know. There could be more lands, and then the firmament touches down further, right?
Right.
We don't know.
So Andrew, I want to go through something. Andrew, you're gonna have to give me a minute, 2 minutes to go through this. But
Yeah.
we do not need to speculate what's beyond 60 degrees south, which is the limit where we're allowed to freely, independently explore. And we do not need to speculate what's in the sky. We can prove the Earth is flat here with measurements and not just physical measurements, and we can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. Okay, but I do like talking about what's out there, and I want to talk about this. You can go on a ship tracking website. These are all ships that are all over the Earth. You can click on them, find out information, where they're coming from, where they're going, how long they've been at sea, everything, right? And we found a ship here, 730 miles from the shoreline of Antarctica. How does an active ship get 730 miles from the shoreline of Antarctica, right? We found another one, 905 miles from the shoreline, okay? 900. How does a ship get 905 miles inside of Antarctica? Hang on, okay? So this was a map that was found in a Buddhist temple, published in 1907, I think, in a Hawaiian newspaper, saying these are all just showed these other continents out here, right? Here we are, South America, America, get your bearings, Australia, right? And there's other continents out here. Now imagine if this was a big map and I wrapped it around a basketball. All of this would get crunched down on the bottom to wrap it around the basketball, and that would be what they call Antarctica. Now hang on, this is just we're just looking at this, okay? And so when I clicked on the ship, and it said it was registered to the nation of Kiribati, and that's all it said. Didn't have any destination unknown, right? And so Kiribati is a tiny little island in the middle of the ocean that you can't even find. Now, notice the spelling, Karibiti. And when you Google search it, it brings you right to that island. You can't even see it until it zooms in. Just remember that for a minute, right? On the island of Kiribati, there's a Captain Cook Hotel. And if you know the story about Captain Cook, he tried to circumnavigate Antarctica, which is just 10,000 miles around. It took him 3.5 years. He went over 68,000 miles. Doesn't make any sense on a ball. But there happens to be maybe there's just somebody obsessed with Captain, Captain Cook there, right? If we look at all the ships that are going to the giant pier at this place, they all have destination unknown or destination Christmas Island. Okay, some people say they call Christmas Island, Kiribati is called Christmas Island, but if you look into all the stuff with Christmas and Santa, Satan, right, there's some weird stuff going on there. Doesn't prove anything, right? So time zones on the flat Earth, you got the Earth that's divided into 24 time zones, all right? 24 time zones, right? And those are all the time zones as the Earth moves around, right? But if we look where Kiribati is, I know it's pronounced Kiribati for those people that are freaking out right now. There's this time zone that does this. Why does the time zone do that? This goes across 3.5 time zones, right? And where's Kiribati? Right there in I'll call that the most suspicious spot. I don't know what that means, but if the Earth was a globe, there should be 24 lines from the North Pole to the South Pole, sectioning up like an orange. And And as the sun passes over each one of them, as the Earth spins, allegedly, there should be 24 time zones, but there's not. Okay, there's not 24 time zones. There's in the north there's only 19 time zones. In between the tropics is 24, and in the south is 32. That doesn't make any sense on a globe, right? And they don't teach you that in school. But here's something else. We made this video. It was going kind of viral. And so now when you search for Kiribati, it brings you to the other side of the world. This is where it brings you to this island, when in fact Kiribati is all the way over here. And guess what? They changed its name. It's now Karamati with an M. It's just
Okay.
well, hold on. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. So the question I have is, where's it? So China, US, Vietnam, a bunch of other countries give tons of money. We gave them $10 billion recently. They said it's a very important trade route. Why would a giant, oh, by the way, that ship that we found, 850 meters long and 80 meters wide, gigantic. You can't even fathom that ship. And like, why is that ship in the middle of Kiribati? And why would it need to stop at Kiribati? What do they have there? Sand? They don't even have enough sand to fill a ship like that. It's a tiny little island, right? So they say it's a very important trade route. Well, what if the trade route was from here out here to other lands? Maybe they're trading tuna fish. Maybe they're trading weapons, computer chips, children. We don't know. And neither do you, because you've never even heard of Kiribati until this conversation.
Yeah. I heard.
So what's out here? I think there's advanced civilizations out there. I think the fallen angels are out there. I think the Nephilim are out there. Okay. I don't know. It's just me. I'm just guessing. Angel, you want to chime in?
Yeah, well, it's just very interesting. It's all speculation at the end of the day. But
100%.
I mean, at this stage, I mean, we know that they're lying about the shape of the Earth. We know that. We've, without a doubt, proven it's flat. It's over.
Let me ask you a question. If the Earth, if this was the Earth, right? And so here we got, United States, South America, right? You got your orientation. And this white ring was Antarctica. It's a couple thousand miles wide, right? And out here, there's more territory. If somebody lived on the territory out here and came to the inner area, what might we consider them? From the extraterra.
Yeah, extraterrestrial.
Extra.
And from where? From where? The outer space.
Yeah.
So what they've done, Andrew, if they told you that the outer space, right, the extra lands is in the sky, where it violates natural law.
Yeah.
Where in fact it could just be an infinite plane that goes out sideways for who knows how long. Could be infinite. Who knows?
They wrapped the map around a globe and said, you can't go and explore this white space. You can't.
Yeah.
So just imagine if they wrap like that ball there, they're wrapping it around. Imagine they did that to just America and they had the edge of America guarded and said, oh, that's it. You can't go past here. You'd think the Earth is just America.
Yeah, no.
Right? That's all they've done.
But then doesn't that contradict your worldview about God creating, you in his image,
Nope.
right?
Okay. Not at all.
You just said, it could be...
We're in the sense of creation.
Okay, yeah. And so do you find, because I was actually fascinated about this, this is kind of like a pivotal question that I want to sort of ask you. Like, do you think that is an issue with you and the globe sort of model, right? Globism, do you have an issue merging that with a sort of like all-powerful but all-loving sort of God? It doesn't make sense to you because you're then no longer like, it's hard for you to rectify you being, the like created and with purpose, right?
No. So the thing is, right,
of this sort of like this infinite sort of universe, right? Is that the issue that you have with it? Because for me, I've always found that sort of very, very, very challenging, right? And I've wrestled with that all of my life, right? Being this small speck of dust, right? In this infinite sort of universe, right? And rectifying that.
Can I say something just very quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
So what you just said is we're an infinite speck of nothing in an infinite universe. Okay, the person who created the heliocentric paradigm is
Hmm.
Copernicus, a Jesuit priest of a Roman Catholic Church. It's a religion that he created. Now,
Yeah.
the Copernican principle that he stated when he made the religion, the heliocentric paradigm, it's a statement he made. It's basically what you just said, that humans are unprivileged, unimportant, basically tucked away in the corner, and that's it. Like, right? And
Yeah.
and people believe this. It's a belief system that people believe coming from a man 500 years ago that they don't even know.
I
It's a religion.
I think that it has this sort of humbling kind of impact on us, right? And I think that humbling sort of thing is good, healthy, and almost sort of necessary because we might get sort of too egotistical, right? And I think, David, you mentioned that you've been criticized, right, for thinking that this sort of your insistence on the flat Earth model is because you want to put humans back in the center of sort of
No,
existence and creation,
no,
right?
no,
And it's
absolutely not. Absolutely not. It is a fact of it. It actually proves that. But I wasn't having any trouble in my life or anything. A lot of people say, oh, you all flat earthers, you were looking for a reason to live and you were looking. I wasn't looking. I wasn't even interested. I refused to
I
look.
partly think that.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I refused to look at the flat earth because I thought it was the dumbest thing ever. And then when I found it, I'm like, holy crap, this world is intelligently designed. And so everything changes. The elite don't want us in a situation where we can't deny creation. The heliocentric model, you can have your religious beliefs, right? But there's also the Big Bang. And so you can always be in doubt. In the flat earth, right? And when I say flat earth, I mean intelligently designed world that we live in. You cannot deny creation. And that's where they don't want us. I want to just change directions for a second. Airplanes. We were talking about airplanes earlier. I wanted to bring this up. New Zealand to Argentina, FlightAware says this would be the shortest trip, this curved line, right? I don't know why it doesn't go this way, whatever, or straight across, whatever. Okay. But this is the shortest route on the globe. We don't have to go over Antarctica, so we don't have to worry about disturbing the penguins, because they say, can't disturb the penguins, right? But let me show you the actual flight route. It goes from New Zealand across the equator to San Francisco, across America to Texas, back down across the equator to Argentina. Now, let me ask you a question. On a globe, if you picked any two airports in the north, anywhere in the north, would you ever need to cross the equator to get from one to the other? And the answer is no. And guess what? There are no flights from a northern airport to another northern airport where the plane goes below the equator. Never. There's none. They all stay above the equator because that makes sense, right? You got the equator around the middle. You got airports anywhere, and you would never need to go across the equator. Even if they were one on the equator over here, north of the equator, one on the equator over here, north, you can just follow the equator around. You would never need to go below it because that would be a longer trip. Now, the same should be true in the south. Southern airports, you should never go above the equator, but this one does. Many do. Many southern flights do. Zero northern flights do. What did your mom teach you? What's the shortest distance between 2 points? New Zealand, San Francisco, Houston, Argentina.
Yeah. Okay. So you think that route makes more sense, or
On a flat Earth, it makes sense. On a globe Earth, it makes no sense. The reality of that route, that is the route. This is the flat Earth map. Yours is the globe map. Which one makes sense if you weren't religious about the globe?
Oh, no. That makes more sense if like, based on your logic,
Southern flight, Wellington to Lima, Peru. These people do not want to go to Los Angeles because it's a pit. They want to go to Peru. Well, they have to stop and pick up other passengers. Bullshit. All of these people want to go to Peru, but they go all the way up across the equator. Here's the equator. All the way up across and back down. But in reality, this is where they're going, right? And there's a thing called emergency landing. Someone's having a baby, someone's dying. They've got to land immediately, right? So here is, see, this one is Actually, I don't want to show you that one. An easier one is here, this one. So we got a flight from New York to Hawaii. There was an emergency right here. They went almost 1,000 miles out of their way to Seattle. And they got there like that. Like they got there in 10 minutes. How did that happen? New York, Seattle, Hawaii. Now, that's a northern one, right? The southern ones are worse. But here's another one. Pakistan to London, diverted to Moscow. There's plenty of airports here. Well, Pakistan, Moscow is directly on a straight line. Why is it that every emergency landing, they get to places that they choose to land in impossible amount of time? They go to 1,000 miles. They get there in 15 minutes. Impossible. Have to be going 15,000 miles an hour, right? And it's always on the route. It's always on the route. Calgary is in between Dallas and Beijing. Calgary is 1,500 miles out of the way, according to the globe, right?
Yeah.
It happens all the time, right? Here's one in your neck of the woods. New York to Fiji. No, not New York to New Zealand. And it diverted to Fiji. Like, why didn't it just finish the trip right here? But when we look at it, here's a zoom in. New York, Fiji, New Zealand. Fiji's not over here, right? But on a globe, it's out of whack on a globe. This happens again and again. And my favorite of all is this one. Hong Kong, it was going to the UK. It ended up stopping in Germany. 12-hour flight. 4 hours into the flight around here, a mother died suddenly in her seat. She has her husband and 2 or 3 little kids with her, and she's dead. Plane is full. They cover her with a blanket. You got to land that plane immediately. There's hundreds of airports they could land at. They didn't land for 8 hours until they got to Germany, right? First, I make the joke. Imagine sitting next to your mother for 8 hours, let alone your dead mother. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
right? I'm kidding.
preferable.
I love my mother. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's like, but the trip was over Russia. And if they landed, 2 things would have happened. I always say the same is one, Russia probably would have been very helpful. That could have sparked world peace. Can't have that. And 2, people would like us would go, why did you land in Russia? Why'd you land in Russia? And when we show it, we'd have proof, but they couldn't do it because we'd have proof. So they waited and traumatized that entire family for 8 hours until they could land in Frankfurt.
Yeah, that's horrid.
Yeah.
No, I don't know anything about that story, but yeah, you think that's all because it made more sense to land in Germany?
No, it made sense because
no,
they
no,
couldn't let you know that they were over Russia, because then we would figure it out for them. We would figure it out. We'd figure it out.
I suppose that's one possibility. Yeah.
It's one possibility, but it happens again and again and again and again. Every time there's emergency landing, they land in a place that lines up with the flat Earth. All the long distance southern flights are straight lines on flat Earth, and insane flights on the spinning globe Earth. A flight on a spinning globe, which defies natural law because we have high pressure adjacent to a void spinning. We have all these relative speeds, and none of that matters because it's relative, because you can use the word relative. Well, it's relative. Angel, it's relative. That's why.
Yeah, just like Einstein's wife.
Yeah. It's relative, right? Then E equals MC squared is Einstein married his cousin twice. He married 2 cousins, right? His first wife and his second wife were cousins. Well, they're both cousins.
Oh, man.
I get you. Look, I don't know. I think I just had more...
That's a great answer, by the way. I don't know. That's okay, because with time and looking in the right places, you will know.
Can I ask
Let me show you something.
What was David? Because you bombarded me with evidence, and I feel like I'm being evangelized, which is fine, because I love it.
We're here having a conversation with you, and we're
100%,
informing you on something you didn't even think existed. So we're showing you. Now it's up to you to take that knowledge and verify it, and see what it does to your belief system.
I definitely know I have a good idea of what I want to do with this interview and how I want to weave it into my channel, into an episode. Because I found this whole thing fascinating and really riveting, and I absolutely adored it. I really, really, really did. But what was the event, or what was the thing that led you to change your mind, David? Because you said that you didn't believe it, and then you also didn't sort of believe in God, and then all of a sudden you had this sort of pivotal change. So what led up to that? Because I'm really just fascinated by that. Because I told you that like my where I'm coming from is like trying to understand, your whole sort of worldview and what brought you to it, right? Because this is completely counter to like conventional sort of thinking, right? So
I'll
did
tell you what
something
brought me.
happen?
I'll tell you what happened. So I was doing
Yeah,
a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, where I was looking into other deceptions in the world and breaking them down, and you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and then people started sending me flat Earth stuff, and I refused to watch a video. They're like, just watch this 2-minute video, Dave. It'll show you. I'm like, nope, you're too stupid. You're banned. And I refused to. But then my friend Sophia Smallstorm, another researcher who did a lot of stuff on that event that happened in September in New York City, and she's like, Dave, you got to look. And I went in to disprove it. And during that 2 weeks of literally just trying to disprove the flat Earth and prove the globe, I came across lots of the evidence that we're showing you now. And back then it was easy because Google would literally go, oh, you like that? Here, watch this. Now Google's like, oh, you're looking into flat Earth? Here, look at this misinformation. Look at this friggin', they're literally
They're
trying
really
to
sort of pushing.
every flat Earth video has a Wikipedia. Flat Earth is proven untrue
Yeah.
thousands of years ago. How? Prove it. There's no proof. There's
Yeah,
zero.
what you guys did was quite controversial, right? And sort of,
Yeah.
rubbed people the wrong way.
So-
And the fact that so many people actually believed what you were saying upset a lot of people, right? And that's what I'm fascinated about. You literally changed like the discourse around like something that was settled science, right? And I
No,
find
it's
that
not settled
fascinating.
science. They say it's settled science.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but
You know what?
that's right.
Australia
They
doesn't
said it was
exist.
settled.
It's settled science. It's settled science. It's settled.
No,
It doesn't
I get
exist. It's
that.
settled. You're
I
lying.
get
You're
that.
not in Australia. All right. That's settled
Yeah.
science because I said it. Right. They said
No.
it's settled science. Tell me the science that's been settled. I offer 3 Bitcoins for 1 proof the Earth is a globe. 3 Bitcoins, 1 globe proof. Right. And nobody can come up with one. Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? And so you asked me what got me. I said, well, I've lived in the same town my whole life. And boats over the horizon. I've seen it. I've seen boats go over the horizon. And so this isn't I actually zoomed in on a buoy that was over 10 miles away and I could see it. I went down there and I literally had a perfectly calm, cool, flat water day. Not only could I see the buoy, I could see the water beyond the buoy, right? The buoy should have been behind 60 feet of curvature, right? And so here's right now, we don't see a boat, and we showed you this before, but as we zoom in, we're increasing the angular size. And as we increase the angular size, all of a sudden you go, oh, look, there is a boat there. Now, am I zooming over the curve or am I just bringing things back in? Now, my finger here, I'm going to zoom all the way in, can't hide that boat. But if my finger was a wave in the foreground, as it goes away, it's going to make the boat disappear from the bottom up. See how it's disappearing from the bottom up? Because these waves, it's how our eyes work. And now a glober will say, oh, it's over the curve. But it's not over the curve because I can't zoom over the curve. I can zoom into the horizontal eye zone or horizon.
Vanishing
The
point.
curve eye zone.
Yeah. And that was the evidence.
That was the first one. That was the
evidence?
first one. And then the more you look, the more you test, the more you stop believing, and the more you stop verifying, the more you start verifying, the better thing, the more you can see. Here's 123 miles away. This is from Mount San. I always get it wrong. San Jacinto. Okay. I always say it wrong. And I just have a mental block. 123 miles away. There should be 7,000 feet of curvature. We should just see the tippy top here. But this is with an infrared lens. Take off the infrared lens, blue sky. You don't see the mountain at all.
Yeah. And so the globers will say, oh, well, it's behind the curve. To flip on the infrared, it's still there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Uh, and then when did the whole sort of religious aspect come into play with it?
I
Like the whole
never
God sort of
lead
as
with
well.
religion because, as I told you before, I'd be watching a podcast. These guys are just debunking 9/11, everything. And I'm like, great, I got 3 pages of notes. And they're like, let's have a prayer. And I want to read a passage from the Bible. I'd tear up all my notes. I'd unsubscribe and I'd throw it away, right? Because the
I
Bible
get you. I get
is
you. Yeah.
zero proof for somebody that doesn't believe in the Bible. You can show them anything you want in the Bible. Doesn't matter. They don't believe in the Bible.
Yeah.
Science, actual science, is for everybody. And then you can, and by the way,
Yeah, I agree with
it's
that.
also backed up in the Bible. So I lead with the scientific side. I lead
Mhm.
with reality. And then I also find the Bible every day more and more and more fascinating.
Yeah, but see, I suppose I'm getting like a little bit sort of personal because I want to understand your personal sort of journey, right? So you had evidence that you found sort of convincing, right? In terms of the whole flat Earth sort of thing. But then when did religions sort of come into it, right? When did
Religion
you
is
begin to
not
sort of
a part of it. It's the fact that I
but
can no longer deny creation. Therefore, flat Earth has brought me to have a relationship with the Creator.
that's what I mean. So what is it about the flat Earth model that compels you to believe in a deity, I
It's not a belief
suppose?
system. It's there. If you're walking through the wilderness, you were born today, you know nothing, and you come
Hmm.
across a 100-story skyscraper building.
Hmm.
Is there a builder?
Yeah.
You sure? Prove it.
Well, well,
Prove it.
well, how did the building get there?
Okay. How did the flat Earth get here? How did the intelligently designed world get here?
Also, you got to remember the gas pressure
Okay.
argument. The air we're breathing proves the creator. Because let's just look at it just with science, all right? Gravity is not science, by the way. They've never isolated it or used it, manipulated it ever. They can't. It doesn't exist. But
Yeah.
let's just look at it with the gas laws, okay? The
Hmm.
gas laws state that we have to have a container to have the gas pressure. Yeah, we have a gradient, and we went over that. It's still pressure. Okay, if we look at it very simply, therefore, the Earth is contained physically, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let's just say that's true. If we know
Hmm.
that the Earth is physically contained, then the question would be who made the container that we're living in?
Okay.
Somebody.
It's
So
God.
no,
Somebody.
no, I understand that, and I understand that argument. But do you also subscribe to like Christianity, or do you just find that you know, there's certain
I
things
do.
in the Bible? Okay. Did you what did you give up for Lent?
Well, I was a believer in God anyway, but
Yeah.
Flat Earth got me closer to God because now it's like, wow, okay, wait.
What did you
They're
give up
telling
for Lent?
us, sorry?
What did you give up for Lent?
What do you mean? What did I?
I'm just joking. No, but because sorry, because I give up meat for Lent and it's Good Friday this Friday. So do you subscribe to like you know all those sort of traditional sort of aspects of it? Because you're Italian, so I'm assuming
Yeah,
you're like Roman
look, not
Catholic and all that sort of stuff. Like that's what I mean. Like, do you practice? Because I went to church like every Sunday during Easter, during
okay.
Lent, for example. You know, it's the pilgrimage of hope, and I've made sort of you know content about that, right? As
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So
I give
so
up meat too.
does
Yeah,
it lean
meat.
into that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, meat.
And what about you, David? Like, do you is yours like a close personal relationship with God, or do you subscribe to a particular sort of denomination
Say I'm
or
more
faith?
Christian than most of the people that claim that they're Christians in the way I behave. I don't believe in organized institutional religion. I think that God is within you. And, in
Yeah.
1700s, all the bishops got together and they're like, the Bible says that God's within you and that you have a direct relationship to God. We need to take this out of the Bible and make us the middleman because then we can control everybody.
Exactly.
So that's what they did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't need a pastor or anything. Although Marty Leeds is a great pastor, flat Earth guy. He does sermons every Sunday on YouTube, and they're phenomenal. They're phenomenal.
What's his name? Marty,
Marty Leeds.
Marty.
Well, I'll show you where you can get all this stuff. But here's the thing:
Yeah, that'd be
we
great.
are in this soul system, this entire system. Everything in the sky is alive. Everything on Earth is alive. The Earth is alive. We're all part of it. We're alive. We're connected. We have. They tell Science tells us you don't use 90, but you only use 10% of your brain. The other is just ridiculous. That's what they tell us, right? No, that's where they want us. They fluoridate us. They axe, the jibby jab thing us. They literally calcify our pineal gland, which is our connection, and then they go, oh, you're on a globe, and it disconnects you from the universe. It disconnects you from the system. When you're have a globe mentality, you live in a world of lack, restriction, shortages, overpopulation, and every other fear that comes with the globe. And that's where they want you. Fear is false evidence appearing real. FEAR. That's where they want you. Because when you're in fear, you give up your God-given rights.
But David, I believe in the globe, but I don't have that fear.
Well,
that you're describing.
Okay, let me ask you. Wait, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, because I just want to clarify that. I have this lovely close personal relationship with God, and I also believe.
All right, Andrew, 1 second. Check this out. You said you're on a globe and you don't have fear, right?
No, okay. I do have fear. Sorry, but not the kind of fear that that David's describing about the government NASA, and all this sort of stuff.
Let's just say NASA on the TV tomorrow said there's a very high chance a comet's going to destroy Earth tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It's all over the news. Would you believe it?
Well, yeah, I suppose because
So we know that NASA's full of it. They're fake, the Hollywood agency, that no one's in space and there are no asteroids. Know what Angel and I will do? We're gonna go out and have fun. And we're gonna just spread love around the world, and we're not gonna worry about that at all. While everyone else is in fear, every cell in their body is getting ripped apart with fear. They're causing themselves to have dis-ease, because that's what fear causes, right? And we have no fear of that whatsoever because it's all fake. Asteroids don't exist. Nuclear bomb.
We know that we're in a closed system.
According to your model, yeah, I suppose. But I'd be concerned that someone told me that there'd be this potential of some sort of celestial sort of thing. Perhaps it could be that light that's up in the air, right, is dropping down, all right, and it's going to impact the world and we're all going to sort of die. I'd be concerned about that, right?
I wouldn't.
But, I'd still probably, and that's okay, but, I suppose I wouldn't, I would be scared, but, everyone's going to die.
There you go. You said that you're scared. We're not. Well, you're in fear.
I suppose that's the difference, but then what if something? But
like what? Something from Narnia? We have to worry about Narnia now.
Yeah. Like, what if Narnia? Look, what if Narnia ends up being true? I suppose
it can't be. It can't be. Okay. I put out a challenge. I'm on TikTok debating all the time. I always tell them, I go,
I'd love to see you on TikTok.
Recreate for me a vacuum without a container using your belief in gravity. I'll give you $1 million, and they can't do it.
Well, I get that. Yeah,
if they could do that, they could scientifically prove Narnia exists.
Okay, they can't do it. I understand. Yeah, but look, according to you guys, I still live in Narnia, and I don't mind it that much, right? But
that's your choice. You can live in a cartoon world if you want. But you say you
don't know how true like what you're saying is hitting me. I absolutely do believe I live in a cartoon world anyway. You know what I mean? That's just part of the way that I am. But yeah, look.
I just wanted to go somewhere else real quick.
I find really, really, really compelling and fascinating. I really, really, really do. But what I'm most sort of fascinated about is how strong both your convictions are and what you've built based on your convictions. I love the fact that Angel created a flight simulator and David's got a super successful app. I found out recently on your Instagram that you got interviewed by Roseanne Barr.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how the hell did you accomplish that? That's super impressive, right? For just a lowly kind of,
she has an inquisitive mind. She is very interested.
She does. No. She does. No. Look,
you can find that interview on my website, by the way, flatearthdave.com. Just go to the interviews tab. All right.
Look at you promoting. Yeah.
I'm promoting. The reason I promote this is because I want people to find.
I'm joking. No.
It's okay. Google is hiding this information from you. That should be enough to make you want to look into it, right? Whatever the mainstream tells you to look the other way.
I'd go further in terms of self-promotion, and I'd say I've found out about your Roseanne Barr interview through your Instagram account. So also subscribe to David's Instagram account as well. You'd get,
all my social media stuff, and please subscribe to all my channels is on flatearthdave.com. You'll see all of, just click them and subscribe. I got some great YouTube channels. I got shorts. I got my long interviews. I've got my shorts, my channel DITRH, which is all short to the point videos. People only have like 2 minutes to watch something, or an attention span of 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So
a lot of your examples
angels
really sort of lend itself to like
underscore light on Instagram. Follow him. He does lives. The guy never sleeps. And he does these lives, and he has Globers come on all the time, and basically us. I'm on the panel a bunch of times, and we have great discussions. Amazing.
I put it in the chat of this live. I put a link to my channel here, Angels of Light, on TikTok.
Angels of Light with underscores in between.
Angels of Light. Yeah, I love that, by the way. Yeah.
And so there's all sorts of stuff. And I encourage you to, on my website, I have a thing called the Crash Course. So start watching those videos. If you want to get my app, it's $3. And there's tons of resources on it, like the frequently asked questions page. What about gravity? Why would they lie? What about tides? Where does the sun go? All of these videos are being hidden from you. And one of my favorite pages on here is the Old World. Have you looked into the Old World yet?
I haven't.
In Australia, right? Built by convicts. Okay, supposedly. Start with Old World Order. You can also find that on my website, Old World Order. It's an introduction to. We're not at the peak of civilization. We're literally at the finale of the movie Idiocracy right now. There was an advanced civilization here just a couple hundred years ago. Advanced, way more advanced than we are, and there's evidence of it everywhere. My Lunch Break, one of the greatest channels out there, breaking this stuff down. It's on YouTube, on every other channel. Just watch My Lunch Break. Watch 3 episodes of My Lunch Break, and your worldview will be changed forever. Tons and tons and tons of stuff on there. And then also there's lots of people. You're in Australia, so let's put in Australia. In Australia,
can you go Sydney?
Go Sydney. I can't zoom out. So we'll go to Sydney this way. Hold on. So we'll go to Sydney. There we go. Sydney's down here, right?
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah,
is that how many people have the apps?
This is how many people have my app, right? And that represents less than 1% of the flat earthers out there. Okay, Flat Earth is literally hitting the tipping point right now, and the elite are doing everything possible to make people look up at the sky to believe the shape of the Earth. They're doing everything possible. There's hit piece movies coming out. They're doing all sorts of stuff. It's unreal, right? So again, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
No, absolutely, man. Yeah.
Look, any final words?
Well, yeah. Look, do your own research. Dave's going to give you all the resources, because you're not going to find the resources, right? Because they've hidden it, they've buried it. But once you do, and even do your own observations, learn the curvature formula, you'll debunk the claim.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to do some research, because I'm going to turn this into my own sort of episode kind of like thing, and I'm super excited to sort of sink my teeth into it. This has been an absolute dream, really. I've had so much fun with this, and I love sort of being challenged, and I love sort of critically thinking with you guys, man, and I'm fascinated by your world belief, and also just how hospitable both of you guys are being to me. Thank you so much for inviting me on, and thank you for this experience. It's been
Andrew,
really,
you were a pleasure. You I believe you're an honest guy, and you got some research to do. And the thing is, it's just easier to believe. As I said earlier, Crow 777 Radio says belief is the enemy of knowing, but I've taken it one step farther. Belief is the lazy man's knowing, because it takes no effort to believe whatever you want.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I'd say you have to work hard for your beliefs, right?
You have to look hard. Beliefs are easy. I believe you're in Australia. It's easy. Okay. But knowing you have to work sometimes work hard. Knowing
yeah,
takes time and effort, and people just looking for the easy way out.
Yeah. And for me, part of what led me to you is being challenged, right? And really sort of, testing what I believe or what I thought I knew, let's just say, right?
Andrew, go to my website, flatearthdave.com. And also make sure you follow Angel and start listing on those TikToks. You'll love it. But go to my website, scroll down, you'll see a big picture of me. It says Crash Course, and there's a list of videos there. Watch the first 5 videos. Turn off Netflix for a week, and just each night watch one video a night for the next 5 nights. If you do that, the next time we talk, you're going to know the globe is 100% nonsense.
It's a big call, Dave. I don't think you know. Okay. Look. Okay. I love the idea of talking again, but after a little while, because I've got a lot of work to do, man. But yeah, we'll see where we're at after researching.
All right, send me a link when you put this on your channel, and I'll share it so you can get some views. All right.
I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks. See ya. Bye bye.
All right. See ya. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye.
No, you too. See ya.
Wow.
Oh, that was good. Good and good. That was good.
Wow. I'm going to keep this in, so let's have a little chat.
Yeah.
I'm blown away how people say, "Yeah, I believe the globe." Yeah, Narnia could exist. Yeah, it's like,
yeah, I know.
What is going on?
Yeah, look, I don't think he realizes, and many people don't, that the natural science is very simple actually, and it's like the gas law, right? Like you need to have a container to have the gas pressure. We have the air, we're breathing, we have the pressure, but they're claiming no container. And also you need to, in order to have a vacuum in the first place, you need to have a container too. I put out a challenge. Please find me a video. Someone please create a vacuum without a container using your belief in gravity.
The Earth, man. The Earth. They say they look reifying.
Yeah. So it's, in other words, just begging the question fallacy. Oh, look, the sky's doing it. But the problem is me and Dave can make a gas pressure gradient inside of a container and show you that and be like, oh yeah, okay, outside is a gas pressure gradient, therefore it's contained. But we can prove ours, right? Yeah. They can't do that.
Were you on the live yesterday when I was talking about the rotational speed of the Earth and the orbital speed?
I don't think so.
Let me run this. So the Glober is going, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. No. All right. So the Earth does its orbit at whatever speed, right? And the argument that if it's noon, in 6 months later, noon would be midnight, right?
Right. Yeah,
but the steel man of that is that the Earth rotates 1 degree faster, about 1 degree faster, and so when it's 180 days later, it's 180 degrees turn. So day is still day and night is still night. So, looking at the speed of the Earth's spin. If it spins once every 24 hours, that's one speed. If it spins once every 24.00000001 hours, that's a different speed, right? So how many different speeds could you theorize that the Earth could spin? Just in theory. The answer is an infinite number.
Right.
Okay. So with the orbit the way it is and the spin, out of an infinite number of possibilities, there's only one that would work.
Exactly.
And if it was 0.0000 something off of that number,
it wouldn't.
We'd have day and night would change all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
what's funny though is everybody learns that the Earth spins once a day, whatever it is, right? For a day to exist 24 hours, and it's 15 degrees per hour. Okay, what's 15 times 24? It's 360. It's not 361. That's an excuse. That's a lie to cover up the lie. They had to make that excuse.
They say because it's moving a little bit, that 1 degree gets added back.
Has to adjust more.
So, all right, either one of those, that's out of an infinite number. Like, let's say the Earth's orbit was a tiny bit bigger, or the spin, nothing would ever line up. It would never line up. But if the sun went around the Earth, at whatever, it doesn't matter. It would only work that way. It would only work.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I think, they say the sun's 400 times bigger than the moon and 400 times farther, right? And people are like, oh, what coincidence is that? Well, I know. Is it 1 out of 400 or No, I mean it's calculable, but the spin of the Earth matching the orbit.
Yeah. No, crazy.
That's
also just how the moon formed in their paradigm is just like you're better off.
What
just
is the
saying
latest? Is it that a planet hit us and knocked off a chunk of it?
So it's basically a Mars-sized object hit Earth, put it on a tilt, right? And the debris smashed into a million pieces. Those debris spun around the Earth, recoalesced into the moon.
Well, we could drive a dune buggy on it and play golf on it. Beautifully.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then ended up being 400 times smaller and closer than the sun, so that they appear the same size. And then now they eclipse on a perfect cycle, which we can predict, like clean-cut coins. And we only see one side of the moon because it's magically tidally locked. So are you telling me? So if that moon was spinning just a mile an hour,
it is spinning. People don't realize it is spinning. It has to spin to maintain angle around us.
Yeah. So if it was doing that just 1 mile an hour too fast, eventually we'd see the backside of the moon. It's never happened.
Yeah.
Are you telling me all of that was a coincidence?
And then the Earth spin in the orbit, people aren't talking about. That's the coincidence is impossible. Impossible. Yeah. If it was a fraction of a mile per hour off, we'd have day and night would change all the time.
Day and night would flip, eventually, whatever time it is. But if it was not that exact number, it would flip.
What if it was going, 400 degrees, 24 hours? It spun once every 18 hours, right?
Yeah.
Day and night would change all year long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If it's not that exact number, eventually, whatever it is, it's going to eventually night and day flip.
Right.
It never happens.
Yeah. Right. But people say, if it spun, if it took 18 hours to spin around, we just have an 18-hour day. But halfway through the year, day and night wouldn't sync up anymore.
It'd be off.
It wouldn't sync up. Yeah. Amazing.
And plus, the star trails are perfect circles, right? Yeah. And then what we observe in the sky is the stars moving faster than the sun, and the stars are supposed to be further away. Due to parallax, it should be the opposite. The sun should move faster. So a sidereal day is 23 hours and 56 minutes. That's how they claim how long it takes for the stars to do one full rotation. But if you look at your app there, if you put the stars on it, eventually, because the stars move faster than the sun retrogrades through the zodiacs, 12 of them, and creates the year. That's where we got the concept of a year from. It's the sky moving at different speeds. It's not the Earth doing anything.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing. I was trying to pull up the ISS star trails who recently.
Oh yeah, I've actually got a video of that. I can share it if you want. It's like when people see that, and I'm like, how are you still defending that? How?
I got the image right here. So now, if you look at this time lapse, look at this bright star right here. So this is 5, 6, 7 hour. Or this is like multiple hours. Right? You got to look at it. It's 24 hours around. So for 5 hours, how many they orbited the Earth six or seven times in that amount of time, right? And so here's the Earth going by. How did they stay focused on Polaris?
They can't. I also like it's streaks of light, right, on the Earth. That makes sense because it's streaks of light. It should be streaks of light on the stars too, but it's not. If you put a tripod on your car,
but what causes on Earth? This is caused by the spin of the Earth.
Spin, yeah, exactly. So if you're detached from the Earth,
and you went around 6 times while you're doing the time lapse, all of these should be spirals of 6 times around. If you wanted to claim they were going to be that shape, right? Which is ridiculous. Well, it's so far away that there's no parallax, right? But you went around the Earth 6 times
but they went perpendicular. They went sideways in relation to the stars.
I know. It's so I don't know. It's so frustrating, but I don't let it get. Yeah. All right, brother. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night. Are you going live?
What time is it? Well, maybe I'll see what's going on. But right. Yeah, I've got to get some food as well. But yeah.
All right, man.
All right. Thanks for everything.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everyone. If you enjoyed this interview, please help support my work and help wake up others by referring or gifting the app to at least one person today. By doing that, you're going to help wake people up and help me to continue doing other interviews like this. With the censorship out there that's going on, it's very difficult to find relevant information. And the app, as you know, brings people to the truthful information of our world. So help support my work, help support your efforts in waking up friends, family, and strangers. Gift them the app or just recommend the app. And let's make 2025 the year Flat Earth breaks free. Check the links below for information on how to gift the app or just refer the app to others and use your referral code to earn Dome cryptocurrency and a free subscription. Thanks.